Chapter 1049. After eating 12 immortal fire pills, Lu Chen's fire element affinity increased by 412 points, reaching 5,063 points. Seeing this number, Lu Chen's first reaction was that he could learn Burning Heaven. Learn Burning Heaven, Lu Chen hurriedly said. Third layer of Raging Flames Burning Heaven, Earth Fire Burning Heaven, learned. Generally speaking, after learning a skill, one always has to try out its power. Since there's no one here, I can try this skill. Lu Chen was about to use Burning Heaven when he suddenly realized that he couldn't use it if he only activated Divine Demon Symbiosis. Insufficient spiritual energy. Damn this, what's with this skill? How much spiritual energy does it need? Lu Chen was astonished. His own spiritual energy was more than 500,000, but he couldn't even use Burning Heaven once. Carefully looking at the skill description, the minimum spiritual energy required to use Burning Heaven was 10 million. As for the higher part, it was converted into the duration, fire damage and so on. In other words, no matter how high the spiritual energy was, Burning Heaven could help you use it, but the minimum required was 10 million. Lu Chen carefully looked again and confirmed that the skill description said 10 million spiritual energy, and not 10 million spirit energy. Only then did he completely give up. Damn, how many people have 10 million spiritual energy? This skill is not intended for people to use at all. Lu Chen was speechless. Unless he activated Soul Body as one, he couldn't use Burning Heaven even if he had Dual Heaven's might. This skill's requirements were too exaggerated. No wonder Kong Lian Xian said that he could only cultivate to the first layer at most. At his level, it would be good if he could cultivate to the first layer. I don't know where the next light beam will send me, so I won't use Soul Body as one. Thinking of this, Lu Chen dispelled the idea of trying out the skill and quickly returned to Qingze continent. Yao He didn't leave and was still waiting for him. When she saw Lu Chen come out, she noticed that Lu Chen was now a 5-star Wild Earth cultivator. Even though Yao He's level was still much higher than Lu Chen, who didn't start as a cultivator and advance step by step. At the Earth cultivator stage, the speed of advancement had obviously slowed down. It wasn't strange for some people to advance 1 star in a few years, and some people even stopped at Earth cultivator. In the end, this guy leveled up like he was drinking water. The worst thing was that he still leveled up naturally. Yao He finally understood. The reason why Nameless' level was not high was because he was not in the mood to level up. Your level? It's too slow, isn't it? Lu Chen shook his head and agreed. It's indeed too slow. The underworld still rises faster. Yao He forcefully swallowed back the words she was about to say. Who said you were slow in leveling up? What kind of logic is this? It was not that Lu Chen was faking it. Ever since he had entered the Jiutian, as long as he was serious about leveling up, regardless of whether it was the level of his war soul or his immortal cultivation, it would be like sitting on a rocket. With his current speed, he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. Luo Yao also knew that this fellow could not be inferred with common sense. Therefore she said, Nameless. Is the other side of the 7 elements returned to one the stellar core spirit veins? Lu Chen nodded. Yes, I've been to 2 planets. The core region of one has already been developed and the other has not. The first continent is called the Songyuan continent. The eye of the array is not far from the cultivation grounds they have developed. So you'd better leave this place. You might meet people from other continents. Yao He frowned. If they discovered the large array here, once the 7 elements returned to one was broken, it would be troublesome if there were any treasures. Nameless, I won't leave. No matter where you go to cultivate, it's best that you hurry. If someone comes after you, I'll think of a way to deal with them. The people I met before were from the general hospital. It's not safe for you to be here alone. Lu Chen said seriously. Don't worry. I won't have a direct confrontation with them. As long as I lure them out, the 7 elements returned to one will naturally deal with them. Anyway, I have a way to deal with them. You just focus on cultivating. I'll help you get rid of any worries. Lu Chen looked at Yao He. Seeing that she was determined, and thinking that this woman was half heavenly fox, he nodded at her and said, Thank you. I'm not helping you. Even if they didn't kill Li Wei now, but she's still enduring pain that you can't imagine. Lu Chen nodded and looked at the third light pillar. There are 5 more. We have to hurry. A month ago, Celestial Fortress gathered all the general hospitals and announced the news of the underworld invasion. This time, the heavenly immortal castle came prepared. Although the death squads they sent out suffered heavy casualties, they still brought back precious information from the Shadow Stone. In front of the Shadow Stone, there were no more doubts. All the general hospitals realized the seriousness of this matter. After a discussion, everyone agreed that it was not advisable to enter the underworld to fight. From the Shadow Stone, it was clear that the immortal cultivators in the underworld were at a great disadvantage. Nameless was the only exception to this point. In addition, the army of the dead had now appeared in groups of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. They had obviously entered a state of combat readiness. In the Shadow Stone, dozens of suicide squad members took poison and committed suicide before they were captured. This way of dying was much better than being captured by the army of the dead and having their yang energy sucked dry and their soul destroyed. However, according to logic, after they died, they would enter the underworld again. This point attracted the attention of the others. If they were killed by the army of the dead, once their souls entered the underworld, after a few days, their memories of their previous lives would be washed away, and they would change sides. Under such circumstances, everyone was forced to adopt a defensive strategy. After formulating the relevant strategy, all the general hospitals quickly returned to their own continents. Yi Fan and the others followed the people of Zhongxiange back to Xingyuan continent. Zhongxiange quickly gathered all the deans of the various academies to discuss this matter. Then a large-scale investigation began. All the holy hospitals sent a large number of students to the demonic academy to dig secret passages and set up defensive formations. A month later, in the underground warehouse of the Donglin Holy Hospital, another hidden passage was found. However, no one could guarantee that the demonic academy was the only exit in Xingyuan continent. Even though all the academies were investigating, there were still many areas that they could not penetrate. No matter how intense the competition was in the past, the entire Xingyuan continent had to put aside the conflicts between the academies and work together to resist the invasion of the army of the dead. Because the demonic academy's level was low, and there was an entrance to the underworld in the academy, no students were recruited. Everyone was in the academy. During this period, all the meditation pavilions were filled with people almost every day. With the invasion of the army of the dead imminent, the geniuses of the Divine Demon Academy worked harder than ever before, making final preparations for this great battle. After dinner, Yi Fan, Xiaozhan, Chu Tian, Wu Xian, Skyfall, and more than 40 other Divine Demon Academy disciples sat together at the back of the mountain. These people were the elite disciples of the Demonic Academy, and all of them knew how to use swords. Senior brother Chu Tian, I'm afraid that the invasion of the army of the dead this time will be a fierce battle, said a newcomer. Chu Tian nodded. It will indeed be a fierce battle. Moreover, the Demonic Academy will become an important battlefield. The Academy is transferring resources to the Fenglai Sacred Academy, and they have also set up a large number of defensive formations in front of the Cliff of Reflection. Xiaozhan said in a rare serious tone. There's nothing much to say about a battle of life and death. However, I hope that everyone can do their best to protect the other students. We are all from the Demonic Academy, so no matter how much we compete in the past, we must work together at this time. Yi Fan said indifferently, the Academy head is not here, so we must help him protect his home. Is everyone okay with that? Senior brother Yi Fan, our Demonic Academy is not to be bullied. As long as they dare to come, we will give them a big gift, said a beautiful female disciple. Wu Xian clenched his fists. We must settle the debt from last time. That's right, heroes are born in troubled times. This is also a great opportunity for our Demonic Academy to rise up. This time, we must fight a beautiful defensive battle. Chu Tian nodded. Alright, since it's like this, then during this period of time, everyone will practice the combination technique I gave you. Within 2 months, you must become familiar with the Heavenly Rhythm Divine Sword Array, and be able to cooperate well. Chapter 1050. On a huge planet, This continent was hundreds of times larger than an ordinary continent. This continent was called the Divine Spill Continent. There were many powerful holy academies here, and as many as 10 immortal academies had set up branches here. In the north of the Divine Spill Continent, there was an ancient rainforest called the Demonfall Forest. There were countless masters in the Divine Spill Continent, and the Demonfall Forest was an important place for all sects to gain experience. Especially in the periphery of the Demonfall Forest, disciples of various academies could be seen everywhere. However, the deeper one went into the Demonfall Forest, the more dangerous it was. In the vicinity of the Demonfall mountain range, very few people would set foot there unless they were at the Human King realm. At this time, in a cave in the depths of the Demonfall Forest, there was a faint light of fire. A teenager of 14 or 15 years old was roasting a large piece of raw meat. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was no mist of spiritual power in front of the badge on his chest. It was clearly written that he was at the 2 stars of the Human King realm. Beside him, a little white mouse was gnawing at the raw meat with all its might. Another half-naked man was sitting there adding firewood to the bonfire. If someone who knows Lu Chen is here, they will be surprised to see the half-naked man. This person was actually Lu Chen. Except for the fact that he was not busy cooking like before, his demeanor and behavior were completely the same. Suddenly the teenager looked up at Lu Chen, shook his head and sighed. "Little Origin, you should change back. No matter how well you imitate, you are still not your father." The little white mouse also looked up and put down its little paw. It felt that even the delicious food in front of it had become tasteless. It turned out that these 3 guys were Little Origin, Little Beast, and Little Hairball. Back then, Xiao Yuan had absorbed the spiritual energy from the self-detonation of the 4 supreme spiritual cores, so its strength was unimaginable. The puppet master was forced to kick Lu Chen into the 6th layer of heaven, but Xiao Yuan was eager to save its master, so the puppet master escaped. Everyone was a puppet master, but Lu Chen's master was about to die, and he was almost killed by his puppet. No one knew what the puppet master was thinking. However, Little Origin was one step too late. It was transmitted to a different place with Lu Chen, and they were separated from each other. Fortunately, the 3 of them did not separate and landed in the Demonfall Forest together. The 3 of them were extremely lucky. They just happened to run into a battle between a Human King realm expert and a high-level demonic beast. Both sides were severely exhausted. At that time, both Little Hairy Ball and Little Beast God were severely injured, and Little Yuan knew that no matter who won, it would not benefit them. Relying on his heaven-defying strength back then, he went all the way and killed that Human King and the rank 5 magical beast together. The little critter's badge belonged to that Human King. Logically speaking, when an immortal cultivator wore another person's badge, it would also show their own level. However, he just happened to not be an immortal cultivator, so there was no reaction when he wore it. It still showed that he was a 2-star Human King. That Human King and demonic beast were also quite pitiful. After falling into the hands of these 3 fellows, not even their bones remained. After receiving the spirit energy from the 2 masters, the little beast and the little furball's strength soared. Although the little originator's strength had decreased over time, the little beast and the little furball had risen. At this point, the 3 of them began to hunt. Whenever they hunted prey, the little furball would eat the meat, and the little beast would eat the beast core. In the past few months, the 3 of them were so satisfied that they swept through a small part of the Forbidden Forest and killed all the birds in the surrounding dozens of miles. Maybe it was because the hunting had become more difficult recently, and they had more free time, and they missed Lu Chen too much. The little beast asked Little Yuan to look like Lu Chen, but the result was the opposite. Seeing the meat reminded them of Lu Chen, which made the little beast and the little furball even sadder. "Hey Dad, where are you? Little beastie misses you." Looking at the meat in front of him, the little furball did not smell good. Squeak, 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 squeak. Big brother rhubarb, sister green, Xiaomin shaking its head, Little Yuan returned to the form of a white tiger. It had just reunited with its master, and now they were separated. During the hunting, they encountered some small teams, but when they saw the little beast's badge, they immediately became obedient and only thought that the little beast was a beast controller. From their mouths, the little beast and the little beast gained a deeper understanding of the sixth heaven. The sixth heaven was very big. It was not just a continent, but was composed of many planets and continents. For the little beast and the little beast, finding Lu Chen was more difficult than finding a needle in a haystack. The three of them could only continue to hunt in the Demon Fall Forest. During this period, their strength had improved a lot. However, what was the use of improving their strength? They did not know how to find Lu Chen at all. While the three of them were crying, the little beast suddenly raised its head and raised its hand. The little furball and the little source immediately understood that someone was approaching. Not long after, a few trembling people approached the cave. "Excuse me, is that beast controller here?" The little beast walked out with a frown and found that there were more than 20 people standing at the entrance. The one who spoke was an old man in his 40s or 50s, who also seemed to be very cautious. "Who are you looking for?" the little beast asked grumpily. Seeing the little beast, the old man breathed a sigh of relief. "You are still here. What is it?" the little beast asked. "Well, it's like this. We are from the Nether Spring Academy. Our academy's strength in the Divine Spill continent is, cough cough, not bad. The army of the dead is about to invade. We heard that a genius beast controller had appeared in the Demon Fall Forest, so we came to pay a visit." The little beast and the others had met many people during this time, so they had some understanding of the situation in the Divine Spill continent, especially the top immortal academies and sacred academies. They had never heard of the Nether Spring Academy. "Why are you visiting us? Hurry up and leave, or we will kill you." The old man's face turned ashen. This fellow was just as the rumors said. His temperament was strange. "Well, little friend, there is no need to be angry. The army of the dead is about to invade. At this time, there is no need for us to kill each other." The old man awkwardly smiled. "The army of the dead is invading?" The little beast frowned as it heard this for the first time. What little friend doesn't know about this? This matter has already spread throughout the sixth heavens. It's related to the life and death of almost everyone. The little beast's frown deepened. What is going on? This wasn't a secret to begin with. The old man told the little beast everything that had happened. The situation is like this. The underworld is restless and is trying to annex the young world. They are extremely strong. Think about it, the millions of years-old souls are attacking. This is a terrifying matter. Now, all the academies are doing their best to deal with them. The little beast blinked. "You mean, everyone will be involved in this matter?" "More or less. Of course, if we can block the army of the dead at the exit and prevent the war from spreading, that would be the best. But I'm afraid that we won't be able to block the flood." The old man sighed as he spoke. "Our academy has more than 3,000 people, and 2,000 elites have been transferred. The remaining 1,000 are all newcomers. I don't know how many of us will survive." As the old man spoke, he told the truth. It seemed that the Nether Spring Academy wasn't some powerful academy. On the contrary, its strength could be considered weak in the Divine Spill continent. The little beast narrowed its eyes. If the people of the sixth heaven were involved, then they would definitely be able to find their dad. After all, their dad would never miss such an opportunity. "Do you want us to join your academy?" The old man froze for a moment. This kid was quite direct. We do have such an intention." "Okay, but I will only join temporarily. When I want to leave, you can't stop me," the little beast said and shook its head at little Yuan and little Furball. "Hey, get ready to work." Chapter 1051. Even Secluded Spring didn't know what kind of monsters he had brought out. In short, they had attracted the legendary beast tamer from Demon Fall Forest. After returning to the Secluded Spring Academy, the little critter immediately became the center of attention. Damn, he is the beast tamer who has been living in Demon Fall Forest since he arrived at the 6th celestial layer? 2-star human king? How old is he? This fellow didn't go to the Immortal Academy? He was actually picked up by our academy. Heavens, this is unbelievable. 2-star human king, this level can be ranked even in the Godspill continent. After all, the little critter used to follow Lu Chen. Being stared at by 1,000 or 2,000 people, he didn't feel anything. He swaggered to his residence with little Yuan and little Furball in his arms. This small courtyard had its own entrance and was far away from the other students' dormitories. It was specially arranged for the little critter by the academy. Beast God, these are 2 sets of clothes and 1 set of academy clothes that I bought for you. You have been living in Demonfall Forest for too long, and your clothes are tattered. Even if you don't care about these things with your strength, having a new set of clothes will always be more presentable. Take a look and see if you are satisfied with them. The little critter looked at the 2 sets of clothes that the vice principal gave him. One was white with a golden dragon pattern, one was purple with a black tiger pattern, and one was blue with the academy's clothes. It was true that he didn't have any clothes that fit him. I have kept the academy's clothes and the white with a golden dragon pattern. Consider it as my purchase. When I have the money, I will give it to you. I don't like the purple one. No need, no need. These are all gifts from us. If you don't like the purple one, I will change it for you. No need, I said I don't want it. The vice principal couldn't understand this fellow's temper. Seeing the little critter angry, he quickly put away the purple clothes and said, Okay, you have the final say. At this time, the beast god was willing to join Secluded Spring. This was too important for Secluded Spring. How could he dare to go against his temper? The little critter's temper wasn't bad. It was just that he didn't interact much with others. If it was Lu Chen or even Luo Yao, he would probably act like a child again. After they left, the little critter put down his arrogance and happily tried on the 2 sets of clothes. Hee, you don't have any new clothes to wear, do you? Little Beast looked at little Furball and little Yuan smugly. The originator transformed into several different appearances. Lu Chen's bloodlust sword god, Lu Chen's descent of the devil sovereign, the Lord of Night. The little beast immediately stopped smiling. Little Yuan, you don't count. You're not even human. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little Furball immediately squeaked towards the little beast. You're not human either. Little Beastie immediately put down its clothes, and the 3 of them began to wrestle with each other. Even Lu Chen wouldn't be surprised by this scene. The little beast god had been fighting with little Furball since he was a baby until he was a teenager. Now, with the addition of little originator, it became even more lively. The vice president of the Nether Spring Sacred Academy was about to leave when he heard the loud noises in the room. He turned around and peeped through the window. Principal Ghostfinger, what's going on inside? The teacher behind him asked worriedly. It's fine. I think he's trying to get used to his battle pets. Ghostfinger retracted his neck and sighed. The war is imminent. We still have many things to do. Let's go. The 6th heaven had been particularly quiet over the past few months. All the competitions and activities had been suspended. Even the usual business dealings had ceased. All the continents had established their own defense forces and practiced. The major academies were doing the same. All the external disciples were summoned back, and the students seized the last moment to improve their strength and familiarize themselves with battle formations. The leaders of the academies established temporary alliances and organized the construction of fortifications. On the other hand, the main academies had been investigating the netherworld, but the people they sent out often never returned. The information they brought back was more and more disturbing. Inside the demonic academy, a sea of clouds was having a meeting with Etion, the new and old mentors, and the student representatives in the conference hall. 2 months ago, the Zhongxing sent a message saying that anomalies occurred in the netherworld, and that the Eternal Soul Temple had been opened. It's almost time for them to invade the world of Yang, said a sea of clouds worriedly. I really don't know if our strategy of focusing on defense was right or wrong. Etion also sighed. In the netherworld, other than Nameless, everyone's strength has been severely damaged. Fighting in the netherworld is indeed disadvantageous for us, but to just wait for them to attack. Sai, forget it. There's no point in talking about this now. This is an unpredictable strategy, no one can tell if it's right or wrong. Yi Fan, how's your practice of the heavenly rhythmic godly sword formation going? A sea of clouds already knew about the heavenly rhythmic godly sword formation, so he naturally wouldn't object. Uncle A Sea of Clouds, the sword formation has been completed. In my opinion, it's quite powerful. Yi Fan said. A sea of clouds nodded. This was good news. Long Xiang said, "Oh right, Donglin, Fenglai, Xiaoyao, Shangji, and the other academies have already set up a defense line around our academy. With the defensive formation personally set up by the Zhongxiangu Immortal Venerable, we might be able to hold on. I'm just afraid that there might be other entrances that we haven't discovered." Everyone fell silent. If the army of the dead charged into Shengyuan continent without any pressure, it would be a fatal blow to the Sacred Academy continent. However, the entrances to the Netherworld were too hidden. No one could guarantee that they could find all the entrances. We can't do anything about this. Now we have to ensure that we can take control of the situation. A sea of clouds said. Etian said seriously, "Everyone, don't be too attached to the academy. We've already transferred the academy's ordinary resources to Fenglai Academy. The key is to protect the living forces as much as possible. There's a saying now that those who die in battle will enter the underworld shrine of eternity. After their memories are erased, they'll become their fighting force. Therefore, protecting the disciples is especially important." Lanji said, "We'll form a special formation for the pharmacists. In addition, we'll try our best to use puppet war pets to fight. Once there's an injured person on the battlefield, someone will immediately treat them." Saiji also reported, "The 1642 people of the academy have all been formed. Currently, all the resources of the academy, except for those brought back by the dean, have been distributed." A sea of clouds nodded. It seemed that they had done all the preparations they could. The academy had made all the preparations, but they were still short of one person. A sea of clouds frowned. "Why is there no news from that guy at all? It's been almost 4 months. He hasn't replied to any of our telepathic messages." Etian said, "The most worrying thing is that that guy is bent on saving Li Wei. But how can it be easy to save someone from an army of 10,000? The strength of the 4 ghost kings in the army of the dead is unfathomable. Especially when Li Wei is still in the hands of the king of hell, the archdevil. No matter what, now we just hope that he can hurry back and meet us first." While everyone was discussing, a disciple suddenly rushed into the conference hall from outside the door. "Uncle Master, a sea of clouds, Uncle Master Etian, this is bad." Everyone hurriedly stood up and stared at this person. "What's wrong?" "The army of the dead is on the move. Tens of thousands of army of the dead. They directly rushed out of the immortal corpse mound." A sea of clouds' eyes widened. The more he feared, the more it happened. Shengza continent indeed had more than 2 entrances to the underworld. The battle between the underworld and the Yang world had finally begun. Chapter 1052. Inside the 7 elements converge formation in the Qingzi mainland, Yao He had already set up a complicated illusory formation. Once someone chased after them, they would enter the illusory formation and be lured out. At this moment, a figure gradually appeared in the 7th light pillar. Lu Chen had already returned from the 7th continent, but this time, as soon as he appeared, he rushed out without saying a word. "Fox, there are many people behind us, and they are all experts." Lu Chen rushed out of the light pillar in a flash. Yao He had been waiting here for a long time. Previously, there were people who chased after Wu Ming, but it was after Wu Ming left for a while. But this time it seemed a little different. Lu Chen was not affected by the illusory formation, and hurriedly hid in the dark with Yao He. As soon as the 2 of them hid, dozens of figures appeared in the light pillar. One of the gray-haired men frowned as soon as he entered the illusory formation. He snorted, "Celestial Fox illusory formation? Humph. How dare you show off your meager skills in front of me? Get ready to break the formation." In the dark, Yao He stared at the group of people. They were all dressed in purple robes, and their gazes were restrained. They were calm and steady. They could see through the illusory formation as soon as they came out, which showed that they were very strong. Purple Sky Palace. Yao He's eyes widened. "Nameless, how did you provoke the Purple Sky Palace?" Lu Chen whispered, "The last transmission point is in the Purple Sky mainland, and the Star Core has been controlled by them. I sneaked in to cultivate, but I was discovered by them in the end." Yao He frowned and said, "No wonder you only went for 10 days this time. That man can see through my illusory formation at a glance, so he is very strong." Lu Chen sighed. I don't have time to play with them now, but now, if they can really break the formation, you should find a place to hide first. Purple Sky Palace. When I have time, I will play with you. The gray-haired man was about to use his power, but he suddenly stopped. He frowned and took out a sound-transmitting talisman. This sound-transmitting talisman was different from the one Lu Chen used. It was a golden talisman paper with crimson runes drawn on it. From the quality, it seemed to be of a higher level than the one Lu Chen used. What's that? Lu Chen asked. Galactic sound-transmitting talisman. Its range is much greater than ordinary sound-transmitting talismans, Yao He replied. After that person heard the message, his brows furrowed even tighter. The army of the dead is on the move. He looked at the illusion in front of him and fell into deep thought. Heavenly Master, the army of the dead is more important, someone behind him said. The gray-haired man clenched his fists tightly. Damn it, brat, consider yourself lucky this time. Let's go back. After saying that, the people of the Purple Sky Palace turned around and returned to the light pillar, teleporting away again. Lu Chen and Yao He looked at each other. This group of people left just like that? They said that the army of the dead is here. Could it be that the war has already begun? Yao He was a little nervous. Lu Chen's expression was equally solemn. The battle has already begun. I have to go. What do you plan to do? Since the army of the dead is on the move, the battlefield will be on the various continents. How can you stop it alone? Yao He asked anxiously. Lu Chen shook his head. I originally wanted to stop them before they started the war, but now it seems that it's too late. Then there's only one way. What are you going to do? Yao He stared at Lu Chen. She had a premonition that what Nameless was going to do would be beyond everyone's expectations. I'm going to the underworld, Lu Chen said firmly. Suddenly, an indescribable feeling moved Yao He. All the suspicions, doubts, and even some resentment toward Lu Chen disappeared at this moment. The war was like an unstoppable torrent. For Li Wei, he was going to break into the underworld alone. He was going against the flow alone. Nameless, do you know how dangerous this is? Now that the war has begun, I'm afraid that everyone can't even take care of themselves. No one will help you, and what you're going to face is most likely the strongest force in the underworld. Yao He didn't know why she said these words. She also wanted to save her sister, so she shouldn't stop Lu Chen. However, at this moment, she couldn't bear to do so. Lu Chen took a deep breath. I know, but I have to save her. You've really decided? Yes. Lu Chen stood up. Yao He, let's leave this place first. Once we return to the World Edge Pavilion, you can return to Xingyuan continent. Wait. Yao He suddenly stopped Lu Chen. There should be a treasure here. I'm guessing that the 7 elements in one should be left behind from ancient times. Since you've passed through all the light pillars, it's equivalent to breaking this formation. The treasure should be coming out. After saying that, Yao He removed the illusion formation, and the 7 elements in one returned to its original appearance. In the center of the 7 pillars of light, a black wooden stick was floating. The stick was about 2 meters long, slightly shorter than the silver gallbladder. The wooden stick seemed to be somewhat damaged, as if it had been taken out from a fire halfway through. Beside the wooden stick, a purple crystal floated and slowly rotated around the wooden stick. Ah, this is the treasure? Lu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. This was probably the crudest treasure he had ever seen. If he saw it at any other time, he would probably throw it into a bonfire to start a fire. The illusionary god crystal from the palace of the illusory god? Yao He raised her hand, and the purple crystal fell into her hand. What's this? Lu Chen was curious. Yao He checked the crystal's information, then pushed out the information panel. Illusionary god crystal. Supreme grade. Able to create illusions independently and increase the effect of all illusionary skills. Duration. It really is a treasure from the palace of the illusory god, Yao He said. Considering Lu Chen's ignorance, Yao He added, Oh, the palace of the illusory god is the ancestor of all illusions. Among the 9 professions, it created a new school of illusions. It can be combined with all professions, or it can form a school of its own. So powerful. Lu Chen nodded. This treasure was very suitable for the Heavenly Fox clan. After the crystal was taken away, the wooden stick trembled slightly, and then suddenly flew into Lu Chen's hand. The limitless divine demon sword flew into Lu Chen's hand by itself, and the silver gallbladder flew into Lu Chen's hand under Changming's signal. But why could this firewood stick fly over by itself? This broken firewood stick shouldn't have a spirit, right? Lu Chen was puzzled. Check the item's information. Lu Chen pushed the Chaos Magic Staff's information to the two of them. Chaos Magic Staff. Divine Weapon, Spirit. Weaken damaged in a deep sleep. Nourish with one's own spirit to repair the spirit. Current effect. No effect. Lu Chen was stunned. The limitless divine demon sword was not recognized by the system. The silver gallbladder was a semi-divine weapon, and this ugly firewood stick was the first real divine weapon he had obtained. It seemed that after being trapped for a long time, the spirit had not fully recovered, so there were no other effects. My God, a divine weapon! Yao He's eyes widened, looking at the staff in Lu Chen's hand in horror. Nameless, I didn't expect there to be a divine weapon sealed here. Chapter 1053. It seems that it has recognized you as its master. It just so happens that you know elemental magic. As long as you train it carefully in the future, it will be of great help to you. Yao He said as she handed the illusion crystal to Lu Chen. Here. Why are you giving it to me? Lu Chen looked at Yao He strangely. 2 treasures, one for each of us. You broke this array. I don't want it, Yao He said. Lu Chen looked at Yao He as if she was a monster. Someone actually doesn't want the treasure? Is there something wrong with this person's brain? Take it. If it weren't for your heavenly fox asking for directions, I wouldn't have been able to enter the mirror. Besides, the illusion crystal is useless to me. I don't know any magic. Yao He looked at Lu Chen with a smile. It's really strange that there's something you don't know. Then give it to my sister. It's much more useful for her than for me. Lu Chen looked at Yao He. Aren't you afraid that I'll run away? At that time, not only will I run away, but I'll also be cheated of the treasure. Yao He smiled. You're not that kind of person. Lu Chen was quite surprised. In order to monitor him, this woman chased him from the Tianya Pavilion to the South Pole. Now she suddenly understood? Well, since it's for Li Wei, I'll take it. Lu Chen took the illusion crystal and put it in his backpack. Let's go, Lu Chen said. Yao He returned to her original form and was stuffed into Lu Chen's chest. At that moment, the surroundings began to shake violently. It seemed that the 7 elements to 1 was about to collapse. Lu Chen hurriedly spread his wings and flew straight to the exit. When returning from the South Pole, Lu Chen didn't have a boat to take. However, Yao He summoned a flying bays and Lu Chen still hitched a ride. Inadvertently, Yao He saw Lu Chen's badge. On it was written 1-star field Theo the Great. From a 7-star field Grand Cultivator to a 1-star field Great Earth Cultivator, it would take an ordinary person many years. But this fellow did it in less than 4 months. The word wild was even more eye-catching now. He actually brought it to Theo the Great. It seemed like he was going to be wild all the way. Speaking of which, this guy was now much taller than before. He was 185 meters tall. His appearance and temperament had also changed greatly from before. Although he wasn't considered ugly in the past, as long as he didn't activate celestial demon symbiosis, he was just a passerby. Now that this guy was quietly looking into the distance, there was a faint immortal aura about him. This guy's foundation is not bad. Yao He muttered. Disciple? Lu Chen looked at Yao He strangely. Those little brats should be able to hold on for a while. Sigh, I don't have the time to go back to the academy, and I don't have the money to buy a galaxy voice transmitting charm. I don't know if my voice transmitting charm can contact a sea of clouds. It would have been better if she didn't open her mouth. Once she opened her mouth, Yao He felt that the trace of immortal energy emitted by that guy just now might have been an illusion. Why don't you hide your level? Yao He asked. Why do I have to hide it? Lu Chen heard it clearly this time. Hiding my strength, of course. If I can't see someone's level, I will always be more cautious. Lu Chen shook his head. Forget it, let's leave it at that. Anyway, my one-star Emperor Xiao should be considered to have hidden his strength. Yao He was speechless. His words made people have the urge to beat him up, but it seemed to be right. Just how strong was his combat ability now? Is your weak physique better? Yao He asked again. There is still a little, but the impact is not too big. I don't have the time to find a new star core now. I will see if I can cure it in the future. What was the attribute of your initial weak physique? Yao He was very curious about this matter. 11 times the consumption of physical strength and spiritual power. It can't be recovered, Lu Chen said casually. 11 times consumption. Yao He almost couldn't sit still. Not only was it 11 times the consumption, but it couldn't be recovered. No wonder he always looked sick before. Every time he finished a fight, he would fall asleep. When you lost your arm, your physical attributes were greatly reduced. But you were still able to kill Xuandao and the other two in one strike in such a state. Yao He widened her eyes. And in the underworld, you killed tens of thousands of army of the dead alone. How did you do it? Lu Chen looked at Yao He. Why did this woman suddenly have so many questions? Why was she so interested in his past? I just consumed a lot of energy. My explosive power is basically unaffected. I don't like to fight protracted battles, so I can still kill those I could before when I was weak. It's just that my broken arm was a little troublesome. Fortunately, it has been reattached. Yao He tried to keep herself calm, so as not to create a strong contrast with Nameless' indifferent face. However, her heart wasn't calm at all. Nameless said it lightly, but as an expert, how could Yao He not know the difference between them? In short, Nameless' previous battles had basically zero margin for error. Once he made a mistake, he would be dead for sure. Nameless' words were like, walking on a wire while carrying a mountain is no different from walking on flat ground. If you can walk on flat ground, you can walk on the wire. How could it be the same? Previously, no one had been able to stop Nameless even under all kinds of terrifying restrictions. Now that he had the great void arm of the Celestial and Demon, his weakened state did not affect his battle prowess at all. Then, how strong was Nameless when he was in his peak state? While Yao He was letting her imagination run wild, Nameless heaved a sigh. I wonder how Little Beast, Little Furball, and Originator are doing. I hope they're fine. Who's Little Beast? It was the first time Yao He had heard that name. They are. Lu Chen glanced at Yao He. The other party had handed over the illusory crystal to him, indicating that they were trustworthy people. They're my battle pets. I got separated from them, Lu Chen said sadly. However, Yao He wasn't paying attention to the separation at all. She almost exclaimed, You have battle pets? Yes. Lu Chen shook his head, as if he were comforting himself. The three of them are very strong, especially Originator. I didn't know that it would become so strong. I would have been killed if it weren't for it. So to speak, as long as the three brats stay together and work together, I should be fine. Yao He's head was in a mess. Nameless seemed to be saying that his battle pets were even stronger than him. That guy was already a freak, and he had 3 unbelievably strong battle pets. Then, what kind of horrifying creature was he when he was in his peak state? Both of them were in a hurry to rescue Li Wei. The flying white hound was also fast. It returned to the World's Edge Pavilion from the South Pole in 2 days. Chuan He greeted them as soon as they arrived at the World's Edge Pavilion. Brother Nameless, Miss Yao He, you're finally back. Chuan He seemed anxious. The army of the dead has invaded all continents. Chapter 1054. Lu Chen and Chuan He followed Chuan He into the World Edge Pavilion. Chuan He explained the current situation of the Azure Fan continent. The army of the dead had suddenly barged in from an entrance that they had not discovered, catching the army of cultivators off guard. For the past few days, Celestial Fortress had been organizing the cultivators' defense. The souls of the dead in the Eternal Soul Palace are extremely terrifying. Not only can they become the army of the dead to fight, but they also have terrifying abilities. Chuan He's face was full of worry. As long as our people are not careful, those with weak wills will have their bodies taken over. We originally thought that we would only enter the netherworld after dying in battle, but now, The situation is worse than we imagined. In addition, the ones attacking our Azurfan continent are the Ghost Soldier District's Army of the Dead. They are stronger than the Army of the Dead. Even in the Yang world, our combat strength has not been weakened, but their combat strength has far exceeded our expectations. Their commander is a 6-star Ghost King, and his strength is incomparably tyrannical. Currently, Celestial Fortress is defending with all its might. The Fortress Master has already given the order to surround the Army of the Dead in the Thousand Leaf Hills. They must not be allowed to break out. Lu Chen hurriedly asked, Brother Chuanhe, do you know the current situation of the Shengyuan continent? Chuanhe sighed. When the various headquarters met, we had already thought about it. The various headquarters had to maintain contact at all times. However, the war suddenly broke out, and the various continents were unable to take care of themselves, so I'm sorry, I'm not very clear about the situation there. However, I don't think it's too optimistic. Lu Chen took a deep breath. He was also very worried about the demonic academy. However, he had more important things to do. Going deep into the netherworld was no longer just to save Li Wei. Brother Chuanhe, please bring Yaohe to the teleportation array and send her back to Xingyuan continent, Lu Chen suddenly said. Nameless brother, what about you? Do you want to stay? Chuanhe looked at Lu Chen in surprise. If he could stay, it would definitely be of great help to the Azurfan continent. Lu Chen shook his head. I want to go somewhere else. Chuanhe was a little disappointed when he heard this, but he still nodded. After all, none of the continents had even taken care of their own matters, so how could they help others? Nameless, I will go with you, Yaohe suddenly said. Lu Chen looked at Yaohe and smiled. He habitually patted Yaohe's head. This habit was formed when Yaohe turned into a little fox and hid in front of his chest. Lu Chen also did this inadvertently. However, Yaohe did not resist. Go back to the academy, Fenglai Holy Court needs you. After you go back, if you have the chance, help me tell a sea of clouds about my current situation. Tell them to hold on. Nameless. Yaohe knew that Nameless was right. Even if she went to the underworld, she would only be a burden to Lu Chen. You have to be careful. You must save my sister, and then come back alive. Lu Chen smiled at Yaohe. I will. Go back quickly. Chuanhe asked someone to bring Yaohe to the teleportation array, and then looked at Lu Chen. His gaze inadvertently fell on Lu Chen's chest badge, and he was shocked. 1-star Field Theo the Great? Nameless brother, you are Theo the Great? Lu Chen did not explain much and casually said, I rose 2 levels during this time. 2 levels? Chuanhe's mind was a little confused. From Grand Cultivator, to Earth Cultivator, to Emperor Cultivator, and now Theo the Great, this was called 2 levels? So in Nameless, a big realm was called 1 level? At this time, Lu Chen spoke again. Brother Chuanhe, please take me to the entrance of the underworld. The entrance of the underworld? What are you going there for? After Chuanhe instinctively asked this question, his whole body suddenly trembled. He seemed to have thought of the answer himself. What was he going to do at the entrance of the underworld? Of course it was to go to the underworld. This guy wanted to go to the underworld. However, this idea was simply too crazy. Nameless brother, you can't be thinking of. Lu Chen nodded. I want to save people. Also, I might be able to stop this war. The army of the dead is strong and endless. After the cultivators die, they will become their fighting force. If this continues, we might be able to hold on in the beginning, but the longer it drags on, the less chance we have of winning. This is a war that cannot be won in the first place. Chuanhe was stunned in place. Nameless said what many people were thinking. They had almost no chance of winning against the army of the dead. In fact, Celestial Fortress still had a piece of news that had not been announced. The first batch of Eternal Soul Palace was not the strongest. Later on, the souls that came out from Eternal Soul Palace were stronger. Some of them were even 6th Celestial Layer legends. The longer the war dragged on, the more the cultivator's strength would be reduced, and the army of the dead would become stronger. How could they win such a war? Perhaps, John Doe's method was the only chance they had. Nameless, you have to think clearly. We can't transfer any troops to help you now. Once you enter the underworld, You will be fighting alone. You will have to face unimaginable opponents. Lu Chen took a deep breath, and a resolute cold light flashed in his eyes. Even if it's the abyss of hell, I have to go. Chuanhe, take me there. You don't have to worry about anything else. The entrance to the underworld near the World Edge Pavilion is now surrounded by layers of formations. If I want to go in, I will have to ask the fortress master. Okay, then I'll have to trouble Brother Chuanhe. That afternoon, on the continent adjacent to the World Edge Pavilion's island, millions of cultivators were guarding the entrance to the underworld. The entrance to the Thousand Leaf Hills had been broken, and most of the Qingze continent's troops were gathered there, fighting the army of the dead. However, no one dared to be careless at the entrance to the World Edge Pavilion. Even if there was no movement, the million-strong army was still waiting, not daring to be careless. If anything happened to the entrance, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that moment, a tall middle-aged man in a white robe was leading Nameless into the forbidden area under the gaze of the million-strong army. The higher-ups had just given the order that Nameless was about to enter the underworld. The army was to let her go. The person leading Lu Chen to the entrance to the underworld was the Celestial Fortress's fortress master, Fengshen Wushuang, who was known as the unparalleled god of war. Under everyone's gaze, Fengshen Wushuang activated a defensive formation and personally led Lu Chen to the tunnel. Nameless, the formation in the tunnel was set up by the Celestial Fortress's top formation master. It only protects against spiritual bodies. You can enter and exit freely, Fengshen said. Lu Chen cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Senior Wushuang." Fengshen Wushuang nodded. Nameless, the army of the dead has been planning to invade the Yang world for a long time. They will definitely be vigilant. The people we sent before couldn't enter the underworld at all in the later stages. They have already set up a large number of guards at the entrance. You must remember this. Lu Chen nodded. I'll remember. I'll take my leave then. Seeing Lu Chen turn around, Fengshen Wushuang suddenly had an indescribable feeling. Everyone in the sixth heaven was resisting the army of the dead, but Lu Chen chose this path alone. The torrent was turbulent, and the general trend was irresistible. However, the path that Lu Chen chose was going against the flow. Suddenly, Fengshen Wushuang called out to Lu Chen, "Nameless." Is there anything else, Senior?" Lu Chen turned around in surprise. Fengshen Wushuang said meaningfully, "If you can come back alive, come to the Celestial Fortress. This old man will treat you to a drink." Lu Chen's lips curled up slightly, and he said faintly, "Then Senior Wushuang, remember to prepare the best wine." Chapter 1055. Godspill Continent. The Nether Spring Academy had a total of 3,000 disciples. 2,000 of them had been transferred to the main battlefield, Dinghai Basin. The remaining 1,000 had also received orders to head to the known entrance of the Godspill Continent, 100 Herb Valley. It was said that the elite guards of 100 Herb Valley had been transferred to Dinghai Basin. In order to prevent any strange movements from 100 Herb Valley, some of the weaker academies had been dispatched to guard the entrance. The instructors summoned their mounts. Everyone rode on their mounts and rushed to the 100 Herb Valley. The Little Beast, the Little Furball, and Little Originator were among them. After arriving at 100 Herb Valley, the guards immediately arranged for the Nether Spring Academy to guard the rear. Due to the special nature of the underworld, the strategy of the various continents was basically the same. They would let the stronger ones go first. After all, if they were too weak, they would instead become part of the army of the dead. Although this strategy was a last resort, it was also because of this strategy that the various continents were able to resist the onslaught of the army of the dead for the time being. At this time, the Nether Spring Academy's strength had been thoroughly exposed. From their position, they were probably at the bottom of the Godspill Continent's academies. The academies on the flanks of the Nether Spring Academy had some complaints when they saw that the Nether Spring Academy had come to fill in their positions. Why is it the Nether Spring Academy? How unlucky. They are on our flank. Once the army of the dead comes out, they will be the first to be broken. We will also be in trouble. Hey, the main battlefield is doing their best to ensure the safety of the participating teams. Once they are injured, they will be replaced. That's why the demand for manpower is particularly high. It is said that the army of the dead is taking special care of our Godspill continent. It is the king of hell's army of the dead that came to attack. They are very strong. The biggest problem now is that the legendary 4 ghost kings haven't come out. Let alone the ghost kings. The leaders are all ghost generals. Even Guizhou hasn't come out. Hey, having a Nether Spring Academy next to us is really bad luck. If the army of the dead really comes out of 100 Herb Valley, we will be in trouble. This kind of mood quickly spread among the surrounding academies. Hey Nether Spring, why are you filling in our positions? Do you want to kill us? Someone pointed at the disciples of the Nether Spring Academy and cursed. It won't be long before you trash become the army of the dead. Hurry up and scram. Let's switch to a more powerful academy. This secluded springs is only a bit better than an ordinary academy, but how many ordinary academies in the Godspill continent have the thick skin to stay here? How come Secluded Springs hasn't gone bankrupt yet? Go and tell the dean that Secluded Springs will definitely become a loophole. When the time comes, not only will they die, but they will also implicate us. The disciples of the Nether Spring Academy lowered their heads, not daring to argue with the outer court disciples. The student next door saw that Little Beast was young and shouted at Little Beast, "Hey Trash, hurry up." Halfway through his sentence, he realized that Little Beast had turned around. Then he saw Little Beast's badge. 2-star King Realm. Ah, what did you say? Little Beastie frowned at that person. Who are you calling trash? 2-star. Human King. How is that possible? Cough, cough, cough. Senior, I'm sorry. I'm not talking to you. The one behind is talking to you. Little Beast coldly snorted. Then it walked over and slapped out, sending that person flying away. Although I can't be considered someone from the Nether Spring Academy, if you call them trash in front of me, then are you saying that I am trash as well? There was a sudden uproar in the array formation. Someone had actually attacked, and it was someone from the Nether Spring Academy. However, as everyone saw Little Beast's badge, they all swallowed back the words they were about to say. 2-star King Realm. How could Secluded Springs have such a terrifying disciple? Moreover, he was only 14 to 15 years old. Even the disciples from the Nether Spring Academy widened their eyes. This beast god that didn't fit in with the crowd had actually beaten up an outer court disciple for the sake of Secluded Springs. As for the outer court disciples, no one dared to speak out loud. The outer court disciple who had been beaten saw stars. He forcefully shook his head and regained consciousness. I'm sorry, Senior. I was blind. Little Beast didn't care about this. To him, killing people was a common occurrence. At this time, several mentors, Demonfinger, and the others hurriedly pulled Little Beast back. Beast God, please calm down. It's not worth it to fight over such a person. The enemy is right in front of us. It's not a good time to fight. Little Beast glanced at Demonfinger. For better or worse, this fellow had given him 2 sets of clothes, so he could give him some face. But Little Beast was also a bit impatient. Didn't you say we were going to war? What are we doing here? Demonfinger hurriedly explained to Little Beast the current situation of the Divine Spill continent. So, although we haven't discovered the army of the dead yet, we must guard against the underworld gate at 100 Herb Valley. Otherwise, if we are attacked from both sides, the Divine Spill continent will be in danger. Little Beast frowned. He had come here to find his father. The Divine Spill continent had nothing to do with him. He didn't expect that the continents were still defending themselves. How could he find boss like this? That's right. Does the underworld have a transmission gate that leads to each continent? Little Beast suddenly thought of this. Yes, there are many exits to the underworld. What we fear the most is that there are some that haven't been discovered yet. If several more appear, that would be bad. Sigh, we can only guard the 100 Herb Valley's exit for now. Little Beast wasn't concerned about the Divine Spill continent being attacked from both sides. What he was concerned about was the underworld having an exit that led to each continent. With his father's strength, he should be able to show his prowess in the war soon. It was better for him to go to the other continents than to wait here like an idiot. Thinking of this, Little Beast waved to Little Furball and Little Source. Hey, let's go. We're going to the underworld. Ah. The surrounding people's eyes widened. They couldn't believe their ears. This fellow wanted to go to the underworld? Beast God, don't take things too hard. The underworld is too dangerous. If we go now, we won't be able to return. Don't be impulsive, Demon Finger anxiously said. I already said before that when I want to leave, I will leave at any time. Little Beast's face hardened again. Demon Finger also knew Beast God's character. Once he decided on something, he absolutely couldn't stop him. Demon Finger let out a long sigh and said, Since you've decided, I won't stop you. But you must be careful. The Divine Spill Continent does indeed recruit Deathsworn. There are some who take the initiative to attack. If you must go, then go and sign up. Little Beast nodded and turned around to leave. Beast God. Demon Finger called out to Little Beast. Be careful. Also, your temperament is too pure. If you can survive, you must restrain yourself. The little beast was slightly taken aback. If Demon Finger had recruited him previously for Mo Quan, then this warning should be for him. Little Beast shook his head and gave Demon Finger a rare chuckle. I know. Demon Finger, thank you for your hospitality during this time. If anyone dares to bully your secluded spring in the future, they can look for my father. But I must go now. Your father? Yes, his name is Solipsistic. Little Beast said, and then went to the inner circle of the Great Array. It seemed he was going to sign up for a Deathsworn. Solipsistic is Beast God's father. Demon Finger repeated this strange name. Chapter 1056. Ignoring other people's surprised gazes, Little Beast swaggered into the secret passage with Harry and Little Originator. Finally, there were no more annoying gazes in the secret passage. The three of them quickened their pace. Dad, we're coming. After some distance, a black hole appeared in front of them, which must be the gate of the underworld. The three of them rushed in directly. As many people had speculated, on the other side of the gate of the underworld, the army of the dead had also set up a tight defense. Although the strength of the cultivators would be greatly reduced after entering the underworld, it was obviously irrational to enter the underworld and fight the army of the dead. However, the army of the dead had still sent 200,000 army of the dead to guard this place, which showed how meticulous they were. However, at this moment, three figures rushed out of the black hole in front of them. A gigantic rat was the first to charge out like a streak of white light. Behind him, a white tiger leaped and pounced into the Netherworld army camp. The last person to come out was a human with a large number of divine beast phantoms behind him. His eyes were filled with joy. Ha 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 ha, so many spirits. I won't hold back. After Harry and Little Beast devoured the 2-star human king and the 5th-level demonic beasts, Little Originator was even more terrifying. It absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy from the explosion of the 4 supreme demonic beasts. Although it returned most of the spiritual energy, its strength was greatly increased. Then, the three of them slaughtered half of the Demon Fall Forest, and their strength increased by several levels. For example, Beast Deity was no longer a little boy. He had grown into a young man, which showed how much his strength had increased. Now they were much stronger than before, and they were not afraid of the army of the dead at all. The army of the dead in charge of guarding this place was a little confused. The person in charge was a 3-star ghost general, who was even more confused at this moment. The stupid cultivators had sent more than one team of men of sacrifice, so he was quite experienced. But what was going on with these three things? Not only were there only one human and 2 beasts, but they were also very excited as if they had seen something that excited them. The world of Yang has started to send some crazy people to mess things up? Kill this beast tamer for me. However, at this moment, a scream came from the army. Ah! Something is wrong with this rat. My arm! My arm! The furry ball pressed its claws on the dead soul's chest, wanting to bite off his arm and then bite off his head. Everyone could clearly hear the crisp sounds coming from that guy's mouth. This scene caused the hearts of all the departed spirit soldiers to tremble. Logically speaking, unless there was some special method, they would become nightmare spirits after death and report to the nightmare spirit quadrant. As long as their spirit envoys were not destroyed, It was equivalent to them being in the underworld. They would not die at all. To put it simply, to the people of the young world, they were ghosts. Even if their bodies were gone, they wouldn't die. However, that large rat directly ate that person alive. Moreover, he was eating with such relish. Even the netherworld's physical body and soul were eaten. Nothing could escape from that mouth of his. This guy is a soul-devouring beast? No, it's not a soul-devouring beast. Soul-devouring beasts don't eat flesh. What the hell is it? On the other side, a large group of Spectre army soldiers threw a barrage of skills at the white tiger, but the white tiger was unharmed. It's immune to spiritual power, and has a shockingly high elemental defense. Hurry up and use close-range attacks. Many people noticed this problem and quickly switched to close-range physical attacks. Originally, the Lesser Originator was immune to elemental attacks and Heavenly Wrath attacks. However, that was in the past. Now, although the Lesser Originator was not immune to elemental attacks, its elemental defense was so high that it could almost ignore these attacks. As for Heavenly Wrath attacks, none of the Spectre army soldiers could use them yet. Nobody knew if it was because of the restriction of the underworld. A large group of Spectre army soldiers charged at the Lesser Originator and switched to close-range physical attacks. However, no matter how many people attacked the white tiger, it still didn't move an inch. This guy is immune to physical attacks? A Spectre army soldier was desperate. Spiritual attack, immunity to physical attacks, and super elemental defense. How could they fight against it? At this moment, the Lesser Originator, who had been attacked fiercely, suddenly roared angrily. Like an aurora, it instantly pounced on a 2-star Theo the Great and slapped him with its claws. Half of that guy's body was torn apart by the tiger's claws, and he was sent flying backward. Now the Lesser Originator could not only absorb spiritual attacks, but also physical attacks. Furball turned its head abruptly and saw a bloody thing flying toward it. Without hesitation, it opened its mouth and ate it. Seeing this, the Spectre army soldiers almost broke down. Hey, the beast god is here. Why is no one helping me? The teenager behind the Spectre army soldiers was unhappy. Furball and the Lesser Originator had stolen all the limelight, but he was left out. Just thinking about it made him angry. The Lesser Originator roared angrily and stomped on the ground. With a loud bang, the ground in the whole area collapsed. Then flames of 4 colors lit up on the ground: black, blue, red, and purple. These flames are the flames of the 4 mythical beasts. The Spectre army was most afraid of flames. Now, there were 4 types of flames. The teenager jumped up instantly. At the same time, 2 pairs of huge wings faintly appeared on his back. He was like a sharp sword in the air, stabbing toward the place where the army of the dead was the most concentrated. Wrath of the Beast God. The Beast God's punch had a large area of effect. Splitting, consecutive strikes, dizziness, burning of spiritual power, and a large area of effect. With one punch, the light of many defensive shields flickered. Then the Spectre army soldiers were sent flying. Beast God's celestial realm. Beast God's corpse incineration. Suddenly, the whole area was hit by a fierce ice attack. At the same time, the raging fire burned the area like an alchemy furnace. The Beast God had attacked the 1,000 Spectre army of the dead with ice and fire. A 9-star Theo the Great dodged nimbly in the fire and moved behind the Beast God. Don't be arrogant. Earth Demon Invasion. Then he punched the Beast God's back with both fists. With a bang, the guy's fists hit the target. However, what he hit was not the Beast God, but a transparent defensive shield. Vaguely, 2 virtual images of the black tortoise appeared on the shield, which looked like the tortoise shell behind the black tortoise. This is... Why are there 2 layers of the black tortoise shell? The Beast God looked back with cold eyes. A 9-star Theo the Great dares to sneak attack me? Double tiger attack. With a roar, the Beast God's figure flashed and split the body of the 9-star Theo the Great into 2. What did you say about the soul-devouring beast? The Beast God sneered. Although I'm not a soul-devouring beast, any demonic beast has to kneel before me. Then the Beast God reached his palm into the man's head with great precision, and took out a crystal from his head. In front of everyone, he ate it. The army of the dead trembled when they saw this scene. He ate it again. Just now, there was a huge rat that ate the souls of the dead. And now there was another one. He ate the elixir directly. No matter how many stars Theo the Great had, he was powerless in front of the beast god. The ghost general was completely stunned. Who were these three guys? Two giant beasts had amazing defense. One of them ate the souls of the dead. How was that an attack? Its attack was not based on the numerical value. It was clearly eating. The other one was immune to attacks and became stronger as it fought. Double attacks were too terrifying. This was not the scariest part. The scariest part was that the human youth had multiple types of mythical beast god flames. His movements were as fast as lightning as he ate the crystal cores. In this army of 200,000, it was as if he was invincible. These three guys, why are they not affected by the underworld at all? The 3-star Ghost King had difficulty breathing. This is clearly the nemesis of the undead race. Chapter 1057. The 200,000-strong army of the dead was instantly broken up by Little Critter and the other two. Their strength was unfathomable. Anyone below the Ghost King level was as vulnerable as a chicken or a dog in front of them. Although the army of the dead was very powerful when they were alive and didn't know Little Critter, they should know Furball. After all, many people knew the legend of the God-Eater rat. However, after they died, their memories were severely damaged. Therefore, no one knew what these three guys were. They only knew that they were like the nemesis of the ghost world. They killed like crazy. No, to be precise, they killed like crazy. Seeing that his troops were defeated in an instant, the 3-star Ghost King finally made his move. We can't lose our position. Black Soul Ghost Seal. Suddenly, the White Tiger saw the Ghost King make his move. It quickly abandoned the army of the dead and rushed toward him. An illusory ghost claw hit Little Critter. Little Critter was not injured. Instead, its speed increased sharply. This guy can ignore spiritual attacks and even absorb spiritual attacks. The Ghost King looked at the White Tiger in horror. In just a moment, the White Tiger's speed had increased by 3 times. On the other side, Little Critter had also locked on the strongest person in the army. It shouted in a low voice, 100 Beast Divine Technique. Black Tortoise Inverse Dark Armor. Howl. Furball growled, as if it was dissatisfied that Little Critter were fighting over the boss. I'm killing monsters here, but you guys are stealing the boss behind my back? Furball couldn't stand it. Furball turned into a white light and rushed toward the 3-star Ghost King. At that time, the Ghost King's mind went blank when he saw the 3 lunatics rushing toward him. I just used one move. Why did these 3 attack me at the same time? How could they fight like this? Why didn't they care about the army of the dead? Well, it didn't matter. The army of the dead was not a threat to them. However, it seemed that he was in trouble. One was immune to attacks, one ate ghosts, and one was full of divine beast skills. The worst thing was that when these 3 guys rushed toward him, they had enhanced each other's status. All 3 of them had looming shields and bloodline bond. At the same time, their hands glowed with colorful lights, and their attacks were enhanced with a lot of elements. Damn it. The 3-star Ghost King Realm Ghost General tried to dodge. The little beast spread its arms. You want to run? Yin Yang Trapping God Formation. Myriad Stars Annihilation. This move was shockingly the upgraded version of Extreme Yin Nether Fluorescent Stars Annihilation. A beam of light shot out from the ground and into the sky. The little furball stopped in shock and looked resentfully at the Little Critter, who was concentrating on casting the spell. Roar. Roar, roar, roar. Who told you to use this move? He was gone. There was no more food. The surrounding army of the dead looked at the beam of light in horror. Could it be that their leader was killed in one move? Fortunately, at this moment, a figure rushed into the light pillar without hesitation. At this moment, the Ghost General was facing the 10,000 Stars Annihilation head-on. Even though he was a 3-star Ghost King, he was still having a hard time facing the 10,000 Stars Annihilation. Damn it. Why does this skill feel so familiar? Star Annihilation. I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on under such terrifying spiritual energy. I have to find a way to escape. Just then he saw a white figure walking toward him. The ghost general widened his eyes. The underworld was no exception, and the 6 levels of heaven were all physical battles. Therefore, even his teammates couldn't enter this area of attack. However, inside the myriad stars' annihilation, the white tiger seemed to be taking a stroll in the park. It couldn't absorb the spiritual energy of the suboriginator, but it was immune to spiritual attacks. The suboriginator rushed into the range of the myriad stars' annihilation and slapped the ghost general, who was struggling to resist the attack, out. The ghost general had been burned by the beast fire of the real dragon and the real wind. At the same time, his body was seriously injured. Spitting out blood, he flew out of the myriad stars' annihilation. Seeing the suboriginator rescued the ghost general, the little furball was relieved. Finally, its food was back. Then it jumped at the ghost general. Little furball, don't fight with him. He's mine. The little beast didn't want to be outdone and rushed at the ghost general. A white figure flashed out of the beam of light. It was the suboriginator. The ghost general was shocked beyond words. Were these 3 fellows trying to toy with him, a dignified 3-star ghost king to death? Skybreaking sword. With a flash of white light, Lu Chen was standing behind the ghost general. The hundreds of thousands of army of the dead had been killed in the sea of fire, while the 3-star ghost king was directly pierced through by Lu Chen's sword. Who are you? The ghost general widened his eyes. Why are you not affected by the underworld? Why do your flames come from the underworld? Lu Chen's left arm returned to its normal state from the emptiness of gods and demons. He put away the infinite sword of demons and snorted. Stop pretending. I didn't use the earth fire to kill you. I know you won't die. Go back and tell the king of hell. Lu Chen turned around and said calmly, the solipsistic is here to kill him. After saying that, the ghost general finally fell to the ground. Lu Chen snorted. At this moment in the distant sky, a pillar of light shot up to the sky, as if it was going to pierce a hole in the sky of the underworld. Lu Chen looked in that direction in surprise and blinked. No way, what's going on over there? The distance was too far. Lu Chen couldn't tell what was going on over there. Did the army of the dead activate some great formation, or did someone else break into the underworld and fight the army of the dead? Lu Chen wanted to confirm it, but he didn't have time now. He had to save people first. Thinking of this, Lu Chen retracted his gaze and walked towards the city of the dead souls. More than an hour after Lu Chen left, a few figures suddenly appeared from the portal behind him. They saw a charred battlefield with corpses all over the ground. The 7 or 8 people were shocked. Nameless did it? Quick, look for nameless corpses. They looked around but didn't find nameless corpses. Instead, they found the corpse of the 3-star Ghost King Realm Ghost General. In that case, John Doe must have passed this place. Great, Nameless is really strong. Quickly go back and report that Nameless has cleared the entrance. They quickly returned to the Greenfen mainland. At this time, in front of the secret passage, the people of the Celestial Fortress who were guarding this place, as well as the managers of the Holy Court, gathered. Nameless has cleared the army of the dead at the entrance. Currently, the army of the dead hasn't rearranged their defenses. The dozens of leaders looked at each other. John Doe really did it. Everyone, now we have 2 choices. First, we can be more conservative and continue to defend against the Netherworld army's surprise attack. Second, we can move the defense line to the Netherworld. The second choice is very dangerous. The underworld has too much influence on us. If we choose this option, everyone must be prepared to sacrifice their lives. But I also want to say that Nameless is now in the underworld. This is our best chance to move forward. On one hand, we can get information about the enemy. On the other hand, we can restrain the main battlefield. Everyone knows that the longer the main battlefield drags on, the less chance we have of winning. Everyone looked serious. This was a matter of life and death for hundreds of thousands of people. More importantly, this decision could affect the direction of the war. After a long while, He Xing said, I think we should go in. If we can't defeat the enemy in the first place, it means that we've already lost most of the battle. This may be our only chance to turn the tables. Yes, I support this too. We'll transfer more people. As long as we guard this place, even if the people who enter are sacrificed, The army of the dead won't break through the defense line immediately. Besides, Nameless is in front. I think it's feasible. After a quick vote, most people chose the second option. Okay, then we'll transfer more people and enter the underworld, Yixing said firmly. Chapter 1058. At the Demonic Academy, Chu Tian and the others stood in front of the cliff of reflection, shaking their heads. What's going on? We trained so hard for so long, but the army of the dead came out of the immortal corpse mound. Xiao Zhan couldn't help but complain. Why do we feel like fools guarding here? You can just drop me into the immortal corpse mound. Chu Tian was even more depressed. He took out his treasure, the Heavenly Rhythm Divine Sword Array, and studied it with the top sword spirit of the academy for half a year, but now they were just staring at each other. It would be fine if they won the battle at the immortal corpse mound, but Uncle AC of Clouds said that all the continents couldn't even take care of themselves. If we can't win the battle against the army of the dead quickly, we'll be weaker and they'll be stronger. We'll definitely lose. Yi Fan said with a frown. These geniuses knew this better than anyone else. Although they were anxious, they knew that they had to do their duty. Plus, the exit of the secret passage happened to be at the Demonic Academy, so they couldn't leave their posts. However, at this moment, a sea of clouds, Etian, and the other instructors hurried to the students. Everyone, pay attention. Zhongxiange has issued a mission to send 500,000 people into the underworld. I've already signed up. This group of listless people suddenly stood up, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. What? Enter the underworld? A sea of clouds nodded. Yes. Everyone already knows that the Dean has entered the underworld alone. He has already cleared the army of the dead near the entrance to the underworld. The Qingzi mainland is preparing to send people into the underworld and push the defense line to the front line. Chu Tian immediately said, "That's how it should be." A sea of clouds continued. The Qingzi mainland is not far from the entrance to the underworld of our Shengzi mainland. They've contacted Zhongxiange. We'll attack from the front, and they'll attack from the back with the army of the dead. Both sides will attack from the front and back. Everyone was excited when they heard this news. That's a good idea. If we annihilate the army of the dead here, the Demonic Academy won't be threatened. In the future, we can even help the other continents open the entrances and expand our advantage. That's right. We can't stay passive all the time. Now that we have this opportunity, we must seize it. He might be able to catch up to the headmaster. Him venturing into the netherworld by himself is really worrying. A sea of clouds looked at the crowd and said, "Many of you have been to the underworld before and know that our strength will be greatly reduced in the underworld. Therefore, for this attack, I'll make it clear that we may die." Everyone's expression turned grave. It was no longer the time to joke around in the face of a great battle. That's why I'm going by the principle of voluntariness this time. We have a maximum of 1,000 slots, and I won't force anyone to sign up. We'll let everyone go. Who wants to go? Look for Long Xiang, Saiji, and Instructor Lanji to register. The deadline will be 2 hours later. After that, a sea of clouds left in a hurry. It seemed that he still had many things to do. Then, as soon as he turned around, a large group of people got up and rushed towards Long Xiang and the others. A sea of clouds looked back with mixed feelings. Sure enough, the disciples of the Demonic Academy didn't disappoint him. However, at the same time, it was impossible for him not to worry about his disciples when they went to the underworld for a battle. Old Sea, there are no unbroken eggs when the nest is overturned. When the army of the dead invades, no one can stay out of it. Sacrifices are inevitable. Etian patted a sea of clouds' shoulder. A sea of clouds' eyes reddened. They're all good children, but I have to send them to the battlefield. With a little more time, who knows how many of these children will become strong. If they fall, I really can't bear it. Etian also sighed. The front line is tight. It's said that the pressure there is already very great. Once the army of the dead breaks through the immortal corpse mound, Shengzi mainland will become a dead land under the iron hooves of the army of the dead. Moreover, no one's path of growth will be smooth sailing. This is a tribulation that each of us must overcome. A sea of clouds naturally understood these principles. But it was harder to let go because he couldn't change it. Perhaps he knew that he was being too emotional. A sea of clouds shook his head self-deprecatingly. If Nameless was here and saw the performance of these little brats, he would feel gratified. His disciples are as brave as him. Let's go. The assault force meeting is about to start. Let's hurry over. Within the sixth heaven, the scale of the battle at the front line of each continent could be said to be devastating. The people in charge of the major academies were all present to command the battle. Zhongxiangu had already led the elites of the major academies to fight fiercely with the army of the dead for several days. In the temporary headquarters of Zhongxiangu, several Sengoku seized the time to rest while waiting for Zhongxianji's left celestial envoy. Not long after, a demon man entered the military camp. Celestial envoy Fenghua. The Sengoku hurriedly stood up. The man nodded and quickly walked into the camp. How are our casualties? A Sengoku said. In the 4 days of fighting with the army of the dead, the 4 major defense lines have repelled the army of the dead 14 times. On our side, more than 567,000 people have died, and 113,000 people have been possessed. 560,000. Hearing this number, everyone's expression darkened. No matter how many times they repelled the army of the dead, they could not completely defeat the army of the dead. And they did not lose a single person, which was a huge loss. In addition to, 28 million people have different degrees of injuries and are currently recovering. 37 million people are waiting for their souls to unite and recover. Fenghua frowned. Have you found the army of the dead's young energy supply unit? Celestial envoy. A few small teams went to investigate, but they have not returned. Everyone was silent again. If there was something that the army of cultivators insisted on, or rather, the army of the dead's biggest weakness was their young energy supply. If they could destroy the other party's young energy supply, then they could quickly reverse the situation. However, the various continents had not found a way to supply the army of the dead's young energy, let alone destroy their young energy supply. If this continues, we will definitely be defeated within a month. Fenghua said fiercely. Right, how is the alliance with Qingzha continent going? Celestial envoy, prepare to attack today. The celestial envoy sat down tiredly and looked at the war zone map in front of him. This projection map was like an illusion map and could directly check the situation of the battlefield. At this time, the 4 major battlefields on the map were still fiercely fighting. Their battle had never stopped. Although the army of the dead had only attacked for 4 days, this intensity was beyond many people's imagination. Fenghua let out a long breath and looked ahead blankly. Nameless, how far can you go? Perhaps you are our hope of victory. At this time, someone rushed in from outside the tent. Celestial envoy, there are 3 Ghost King powerhouses in front, and they are above 5-star. The celestial envoy nodded and collected his thoughts. He frowned and said angrily, Damn it, how many high-star Ghost King powerhouses do they have? Our 5-star Human King powerhouses have just experienced a fierce battle. Celestial envoy, that Ghost King is wantonly slaughtering. The person who came in looked very anxious. Fenghua could only nod and say, It seems that they are not attacking with all their strength and have been trying to force the celestial envoy to take action. Okay, I got it. This time, I'm afraid the celestial envoy will really take action. Chapter 1059. The sixth heaven had entered a state where every citizen was a soldier. At this time, Lu Chen knew nothing about the situation outside. He was activating the underworld compass and heading towards the city of the dead souls. Not long after, he arrived at the dead souls plain. The familiar battlefield still had traces of fire and cracks on the ground. Here, Lu Chen killed tens of thousands of the army of the dead, killed the spirit envoy Wuxia, and captured the nameless dead souls expert alive. Standing in front of the bare ground, Lu Chen stopped in his tracks. He slowly pulled out the silver gallbladder and looked into the distance. On the high slopes in the distance, there were already people moving. He was already surrounded. The unpredictable enemy seemed to have known that he would come and ambushed here. From afar, if one did not look carefully, one would think that it was a grassland. He did not expect that the army of the dead would still have such a large number of troops at the back when they attacked countless continents at the same time. They stood there from afar, staring coldly at Lu Chen. The wind blew. The blood-red sky was covered by clouds. A scarlet lightning flashed, illuminating the darkness in front. One strike, countless figures of the army of the dead. In the sky, it actually started to rain. A voice sounded from afar. Solipsistic, you really dare to come? Are you here for this woman? The army in front suddenly opened up a path. A giant beast, Wuxia, carrying a tall tower, walked out from the back. At the top of the tower, 9 magical beasts stood in 9 different directions, each biting a chain. The other end of the chain was tied to a beautiful woman. The woman was wearing a white veil, her face was pale, a pair of fox ears on top of her head drooped weakly. Her limbs and body were tied up by 9 chains. At this time, she raised her head and opened her mouth. The huge amount of spiritual energy in the giant tower was being transformed by her body, finally turning into a black mist, and being absorbed by a black pearl in front of her. Seeing this, Lu Chen's eyes were about to burst. Green smoke came out from both sides of his eyes. The silver gallbladder in his hand trembled slightly. Li Wei, what the hell did you do to her? Lu Chen roared. The voice laughed maniacally. Ha 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 ha, solipsistic. Even you can lose control of your emotions? Interesting. The heavenly fox race is neither human nor demon. They are spirit seeds born from Mother Earth and can communicate with all races, even yin and yang. As long as I have her, I can make her absorb the spirit energy of the underworld and convert it into yang energy. Then, she can provide even more yang energy for my army of the dead. Do the immortal cultivators really think that the great plan that we've been planning for hundreds of years is nothing more than what we are seeing right now? The Eternal Soul Palace gathers the souls of the deceased over 10,000 years. The stronger the soul, the longer it will take to revive. What you've encountered now is just our army of the dead scouting team. The wrath of the underworld is not something you can bear. The show has just begun. Lu Chen shouted angrily. Let her go. Let her go? Ha ha ha. You're really naive. Do you think that's possible? Oh, that's right. She was captured by us because she wanted to save you. Do you feel guilty? However, lone tyrant, it's important to know one's own limits. No matter how strong you are, can you fight against my netherworld army of millions and millions? Can you fight against my countless souls? Now that things have come to this, I'm not afraid to tell you that the 6th heaven is just the beginning. Jiutian shouldn't be divided into yin and yang. Either you become an immortal and ascend to rule all living beings, or you turn into ashes and dust. Since there's still the underworld after the Jiutian dies, and we can continue to cultivate in the underworld since the game didn't kick us out, then I'm sorry to say that no one here deserves better resources than me. Our underworld should dominate the world. The army of the dead's goal wasn't just the 6th heaven. Once they took over the 6th heaven, they would infiltrate from top to bottom until they unified the Jiutian. At this moment, the Black Pearl's gathering of yang energy slowed down. While the pearl was transferring yang energy, Li Wei woke up. She looked at the lonely figure in the distance in shock. In front of the army of millions, that person holding a long spear looked particularly lonely in the heavy rain. Nameless? Nameless. Go. Don't worry about me. Go. The King of Hell's strength is beyond your imagination. Li Wei shouted at Lu Chen. Lu Chen held back his tears. This woman was so silly. Wasn't it enough for her to save him once? Couldn't she think for herself? Li Wei. Lu Chen said angrily. I owe you a favor. Don't you want to see me avenge your Heavenly Fox clan with your own eyes? Ha ha ha, the Heavenly Fox clan's revenge? The voice interrupted Lu Chen again. Li Wei, why don't you tell him now who the enemy of your Heavenly Fox clan is? Li Wei's tears fell uncontrollably. She kept shaking her head, looking very painful. Lu Chen widened his eyes. What happened to Li Wei? If she won't say, I will. The voice said. It's fate. Speaking of which, this woman is not the first Heavenly Fox clan member that I, the King of Hell, have captured. Lu Chen suddenly felt like he was struck by lightning. Obviously, the person who spoke was Li Wei's enemy. However, Li Wei probably didn't know that her enemy had become the king of the underworld. Unfortunately, those heavenly foxes were too useless. They couldn't withstand the fierce spiritual energy in the 9 beasts' exquisite pagoda, and exploded. I had to keep collecting yang energy. Humiliation, grief, and despair made Li Wei cry bitterly. She cried and shouted, "Nameless, go! You owe me a favor, and I don't want you to pay it back. If you can survive, go back and take my sister Yao He with you." Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, and his eyelids twitched. He could feel Li Wei's despair and helplessness, and this made all the blood in his body rush to his brain. "Solipsistic, you can't change anything. As long as you take one more step, I guarantee that you will die." At this moment, Lu Chen moved. The surrounding raindrops evaporated instantly and turned into mist before they could get close to Lu Chen. He twisted his fingers, and the silver gallbladder spun in his hand. The spear's body flashed and lava shot out in all directions. He lowered his head slightly, and his eyes stared at the endless enemies. He slowly raised his left foot, and it hung in the air. "Nameless, go!" Li Wei roared. "Shut up!" Lu Chen roared. The group was stunned, and even Li Wei quieted down. Was that guy yelling at her? Lu Chen snorted. "Damn it! What a joke! Are the lives you saved so worthless? Since it's a promise, how can you go back on your words? I owe you a favor, so how can I go back on my word?" With a boom, Lu Chen stomped his foot and mud splashed up. "You I will save. I will avenge the heavenly foxes." In an instant, an incomparably powerful spiritual energy exploded, and it forced the rain back. "I don't care about your hundreds of millions of army of the dead, your invincible underworld, and your eternal souls. Today, I, Solipsistic, will flatten your eternal underworld." Celestial Demon Symbiosis. Chapter 1060. After being scolded by Lu Chen, not only was Li Wei not angry, her pair of blood-red eyes stared at the lone person who was charging over from afar with heartache. She no longer had the strength to shout, but her tears flowed silently. "Nameless, you're so stupid you don't die." The army of the dead already knew the power of Lu Chen's raging flames, so the battle formation was especially long in order to prevent Lu Chen from burning a group of people to death. Even the fighting was done in batches. "This person has the earth-fire attribute, which is extremely effective against us. Let's exhaust him first." The voice said indifferently. It was strange that although his voice was close by, no one could see him anywhere in the battle formation. Of course, this didn't affect the army of the dead from obeying his command. His stamina is his weakness. Even if he isn't affected by the underworld, as long as we exhaust his stamina, we can easily kill him. A ghost general cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate understands." Then he immediately ordered 300 people in a group, exhaust him one by one. Starting from the first group, don't let him come near here. Immediately, a group of ghost soldiers pounced on Lu Chen. 300 people wasn't a small number, but considering Lu Chen's strength, 300 people couldn't be less. And this was only to exhaust Lu Chen's stamina. Suddenly, a one-star great spectral cultivator pounced in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen was about to stab him with his spear when he suddenly froze. This person, he knew him. When he first came to the sixth heaven, he was trapped on an island and spent a month on a deserted island before he was rescued by a disciple of Paladin Academy. And the person in front of him was one of the people from Paladin Academy. He was also the one who agreed to let Lu Chen ride on their mount. Lu Chen hurriedly turned around and dissipated the force, dodging to the side. He looked at that person in shock. However, that person didn't seem to know Lu Chen at all. Or rather, he knew Lu Chen, but he didn't remember their previous interactions. When Lu Chen looked at the others again, he suddenly found a few familiar faces among them. This batch of Paladin Academy disciples had already become the army of the dead. They had already died on the battlefield. No wonder they sent this group of people to their deaths. It turned out that they were originally from the Yang world, so it wouldn't be a pity even if they died. Solipsistic, die for me. Those people's killing intent was strong, and they continuously sent out several waves of sword chi. Lu Chen wanted to make a move several times, but he couldn't. However, the more he didn't fight back, the more the other side pressed him. If he didn't kill these people, the army of the dead wouldn't send anyone else. Although his stamina was no longer a problem, the other side's tactic was something that no one could withstand. If this dragged on, he wouldn't be able to save Li Wei. Kill! That disciple thrust his sword forward. Way of the Spear, army destroyer of 100 battles. Lu Chen clenched his teeth and thrust his spear forward, directly piercing that person's heart. His body faintly emitted a flame. It was his soul that was being roasted by the earth fire. In that instant, he seemed to wake up for a moment. He looked at Lu Chen and smiled. Nameless Dean, I knew you would come. Thank you for granting me release. I didn't want to become their chess piece, but I'm sorry. Also, I really miss your roasted fish. There won't be a chance in the future. After saying that, that person's body was directly roasted into ashes by the earth fire. Lu Chen suppressed his grief, his eyes filled with grief and anger. Demon Lord King of Hell, I will definitely kill you with my own hands. Army Destroyer of 100 Battles was originally a multi-attack skill, but Lu Chen's Formless had already reached perfection. One skill in his hands had become multiple skills. Under the Earthfire Silver Gall Spear, the souls of the dead fell one by one. All of them turned into ashes. Before the battle was over, the second batch of soul soldiers charged over. Lu Chen tried to shake them off and rush towards the enemy formation, but there seemed to be an invisible barrier in front of him that prevented him from breaking through. Solipsistic, you want to save people without killing them? What are you thinking? That voice had a mocking tone. Batches after batches of soul weapons fell, but another batch of soul weapons rushed up to replace them. Lu Chen's white hair had already been dyed red. The spear in his hand had already killed many soul soldiers. Solipsistic, I want to see how long you can last. Continue. Exhaust him until he dies. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, massacre, endless massacre. Since he couldn't use a large area of effect attack, Lu Chen used a small area of effect attack. Doppelganger, flash shot, spiritual energy cannon, transcendental shooting. Even lightless sky flame pillar, Lu Chen's skills were endless. Especially his doppelganger. It was extremely strong and could hold its own, greatly reducing the pressure on Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen was attacking raging flames burning the heavens, suppressive fire, sacred lotus sword heart, Genesis. These super strong skills either consumed too much energy or were not flexible enough to use. Perhaps even the army of the dead didn't expect that Nameless actually had so many skills and could hold on for so long. A team of 300 people couldn't hold on for long in front of him. They would all be killed immediately. However, the army of the dead had the advantage in terms of numbers. This guy, Hu Mu, let the second team attack in batches, 3,000 people in a group. Yes. The second team, 500 people in a group, kill him. The opponents this time were much stronger than before. Most of them were 2-star and 3-star Spectral Cultivator. Shattering Void. Lu Chen shattered the opponent's domain with a punch. Splitting Mount Hua. Lu Chen's eyes were bloodshot. He directly blasted the ground with his spear, smashing a huge trench, while his figure moved quickly. Devil's Doppelganger. This time, before this batch of soul soldiers died, the next batch of soul soldiers had already surged forward. He can fight so well. The third team, 10,000 people in a group, kill him. I want to see if he can't be killed. The King of Hell's tone was no longer as calm as before. There was a hint of anger in his tone. Lu Chen killed batch after batch, and then another batch came up, as if the enemies were endless. An hour later, the fourth team, 10,000 people in a group. 50 minutes later, the fifth team. I don't believe that this person's stamina and energy are endless. After killing the 5-star Theo the Great in front of him with a single shot, Lu Chen raised his head shakily and looked at the army of the dead charging towards him again. He had already forgotten how many army of the dead he had killed. If they could leave corpses behind, then the corpses here would have piled up into a mountain. At this time, he was almost at his limit, but there were just too many of them. He couldn't kill them all. After more than 5 hours of crazy killing, Lu Chen's hands were already trembling. He recovered his spiritual energy time and time again with the spiritual energy storm, but he couldn't recover his stamina and energy. At first, Lu Chen was still able to handle it with ease. However, after a long and endless battle, even someone as strong as Lu Chen couldn't guarantee that he would come out unscathed. At this time, there were many hidden arrows on his body, and he was bleeding profusely. That guy is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Although the solipsistic is strong, do you really think you are immortal? Under this kind of continuous battle, no matter how strong you are, they can still kill you. Many army of the dead saw Lu Chen's shaky appearance and seemed to see hope. He can't hold on any longer. Quickly kill this monster. This guy has finally exhausted his stamina. Kill. On the 9 Beasts' exquisite pagoda, Li Wei closed her eyes slightly as 2 streams of tears fell silently. She couldn't bear to watch anymore. So what if Lu Chen killed more army of the dead? The army of the dead's numbers were simply uncountable. Besides, the real experts had yet to make a move. The King of Hell was just toying with the nameless. At this time, on the battlefield, Lu Chen suddenly shouted angrily, "Monster? Alright, you want to see a monster, right? I'll satisfy you." Demon Lotus Heart. Inner Demon. Chapter 1061. Little Critter, Little Furball, and Little Originator had just finished off the enemies here and had a good meal. The battlefield here could only be described as bloody. Little Furball had too much food. Some of them stopped after eating half of it. Little Originator directly took their spirit cores from their brains. It was not interested in their bodies at all. In short, the battlefield was a mess. It was definitely the scene of a wild beast attack. Where can we find Dad? Little Critter sat on the ground and frowned. Where are the other gates to the underworld? At this moment, Little Furball ran over with a person hanging and threw him in front of Little Critter. Roar! Ask him? Aya, why didn't I think of that? Little Critter widened its eyes. It slapped its thigh and walked to the Soul Soldier. Hey, are you still alive? The Soul Soldier moved in a daze. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was surrounded by 3 guys. He shuddered and fainted again. None of these 3 monsters were easy to deal with. Dealing with one of them was already a nightmare. Now that all 3 were in front of him, it would be strange if he did not faint. After some time, the Soul Soldier was shaken awake again. The 3 monsters covered in blood stared at him. Little Critter said seriously, "Hey, if you faint again, we will eat you." The man sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of threat was this? Couldn't he faint? Tell us, where are the gates to the underworld nearby? Take us there now. What? What do you want? The Soul Soldier trembled violently, but he did not dare to run. We are asking you questions. Since when are you asking me questions? Tell us. The Soul Soldier tried to calm himself down. If he really brought these 3 monsters to the other gates to the underworld, he would definitely die miserably. He would not be killed by these 3 guys, but by the King of Hell. However, if he did not tell them, he would die now and be eaten alive. He would die either way. Under such circumstances, the Soul Soldier's brain worked quickly. He mustered up his courage and asked, You 3, have you never been to the underworld before? Nonsense. If I had been here before, why would I need to ask you? The little beast said impatiently. That guy looked at the little beast strangely. Although the strength of this man and 2 beasts was terrifying, they always gave people a feeling that they were inexperienced. I'll take you there, but don't kill me. The little beast thought for a moment and said, You're just a small fry. I'm not interested in killing you. Lead the way. The man stumbled to his feet and led the way. The little furball changed back to its original form and climbed onto the little beast's back. 1 man and 1 tiger followed behind. The soul weapon's mind spun rapidly. Where should he bring the 3 of them to? The gates of the underworld were definitely out of the question. Every gate of the underworld was guarded by an army. Even a few 100,000 players would not be enough for them to eat. If they were careless and caused the entire team to be wiped out, they would definitely not be able to escape the responsibility. At that time, the King of Hell would definitely make him wish he was dead. Instead of going to the gate of the underworld, bring these 3 guys there. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Previously, he heard that the City of Dead Souls had set up a large number of guards. Firstly, it was the City of Dead Souls' second line of defense. Secondly, it seemed to be to deal with someone. There were many people there. If he brought these 3 guys there, they should be able to fight. Thinking of this, he made up his mind to bring these 3 beasts to the Spectre Flatlands. Hurry up. The little beast went up and kicked him. The man did not dare to resist and immediately quickened his pace. However, the little beast did not see his expression. He lowered his head and laughed sinisterly. Once we reach the Spectre Flatlands, I'll kill the 3 of you. The 3 of you, the nearest gate of the underworld is quite far from here. We have to speed up. Stop talking nonsense. Go as fast as you can. Don't worry that we can't catch up. Yes, yes, yes. The 3 of you follow closely. More than 2 hours later, the soul weapon stopped in front of a large mountain. He swallowed his saliva. After these few mountains, it would be the Spectre Flatlands. He had to find a chance to escape. However, he suddenly realized that something was wrong behind him. The 3 guys who had been making a racket suddenly quietened down after the white tiger roared. They even stopped at the same spot, and did not even know that they had walked far away. What's going on? He turned his head around curiously. Suddenly, a white figure flashed by and punched through his head. Then the white figure took out the elixir and put it into his mouth. Before that guy realized what was going on, he was killed by the little beast. The little beast shook off the blood on its hand and returned to the originator. It frowned and said, "Originator, are you sure you can sense the location of our boss?" The originator nodded and looked at the mountains in front of it. Although it was no longer a puppet, it still maintained a subtle connection with Lu Chen. Previously, it could not sense Lu Chen because they were too far away. But now it clearly sensed that familiar feeling. There was no mistake. It was the boss. The furry ball could not wait any longer. It jumped down from the little beast's shoulder and kept squeaking at the originator. It was urging the originator to find its boss. The originator did not stay any longer and rushed toward the mountains. The little beast looked at the corpse on the ground and shook its head. "Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame my dad. He told me that being merciful to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. Since we've found my dad, you're no longer of any value to us, so we can only kill you." Unfortunately, the soul weapon could not hear it. After saying that, the little beast looked at the originator who was about to disappear. Its eyes lit up. "Dad, I finally found you. The little beast is here." The little beast's voice was trembling. They had been separated for more than half a year. At that time, Lu Chen's life was still unknown. The little beast and the other 2 missed Lu Chen so much. Now that they had finally found him, it was impossible for them not to be excited. Of course, the little beast did not know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing to find Lu Chen in the underworld. Maybe his dad had died after he was kicked into the 6th heaven. Otherwise, how could he appear in the underworld? Soon the little beast calmed down. "I don't know if Dad has become a ghost or not. But even if Dad has died, I will bring you back even if I have to destroy the underworld." After saying that, the virtual image of the Aurora White Tiger appeared on its body. Then, like a flash of lightning, it chased after the originator and the little fur ball. It had been 2 minutes since he entered the inner demon state. At this time, Lu Chen was like a bloodthirsty demon who was crazily slaughtering the army of the dead. And his means were becoming more and more cruel. Dismemberment, heart gouging, brain gouging. He used every means possible, which made the other army of the dead tremble with fear. He was completely enjoying the process of torturing the army of the dead. If Lu Chen had not reached the 6th level of the celestial demon origin cultivation method, which reduced the speed of the inner demon's loss of mind, he would have gone crazy. After entering the inner demon state, Lu Chen did not care about the injuries he had suffered. His body was covered with new wounds. At this time, he was like a crazy beast, covered in blood and with disheveled hair. However, under the blood-stained white hair, his red eyes were extremely firm, and he was still walking toward her step by step. At this time, Lu Chen knew that he could not continue to maintain the inner demon state. After withdrawing from the inner demon state, Lu Chen was so exhausted that he almost fell down. Seeing Lu Chen's current appearance, Li Wei felt that her heart was about to break. Nameless. This guy is not finished. He actually slaughtered 1 million of our army of the dead. That voice said angrily. Fortunately, this guy's strength will eventually run out. Now he is struggling on his deathbed. Tiger Eye, kill him. Yes, your subordinate obeys. Chapter 1062. As the subordinate of the King of Hell, Demon Lord, Humu's strength was not to be underestimated. In a flash, he appeared in front of Lu Chen like a flickering picture. Solipsistic, you can die now. Lu Chen's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Dragon scales appeared on his left arm, and the corner of his mouth raised slightly. You're still so arrogant when you're about to die. It seems like you don't know who your opponent is. Humu said indifferently. Remember, if the King of Hell wants you to die at midnight, no one will let you live until dawn. Soul and body as one. Demon Tiger ambush. Humu turned into a black light and shot toward Lu Chen. Li Wei was so nervous that she forgot to breathe. Could Nameless in this state take on a super strong attack from an expert like Humu? Lu Chen glared and roared. You're courting death. Void break. At this moment, a shocking roar suddenly came from afar. Fuck your grandmother. How dare you hit my dad? Extreme shadow step. Dual tiger ambush. Lu Chen's mind was a little confused. Why was there someone here? The term dad was very familiar, but the voice didn't sound like Little Critter's. When they parted, Little Critter was still a child. How could it be so mature? Could it be that Humu's son was here? Before he could turn his head to look, a streak of white light flashed before him. Immediately afterwards, a huge spiritual force sphere formed in the middle of the battlefield exploded in a flash. Boom. A huge crater appeared on the ground as if a comet had hit from the side. Lu Chen was directly sent flying by this incomparably powerful explosive force. The army of the dead was shocked. What's going on? What just happened? What was that white shadow just now? Is Solipsistic dead? Who was the one who flew out just now? The army of the dead couldn't be blamed for not understanding the situation. Even the usually calm Lu Chen was confused now. What was going on? That white shadow probably didn't hit him, and he was blown away by the explosion of the spiritual energy ball. What was Humu's son doing? This was a little too far off. As soon as the dust settled, people could see the battle inside. A young man punched the side of Tiger Eye's forehead, shattering the transparent shield around Tiger Eye. Then, like a cannonball, Tiger Eye was blasted hundreds of meters away, smashing through the army of the dead's formation in the distance and disappearing without a trace. After dealing with the enemy, the youth instantly rushed towards Lu Chen. Dad. The little critter rushed over and pounced on Lu Chen, who was covered in wounds. It cried tears of joy. Li Wei was dumbfounded. That young man was called Nameless Dad, which meant that he was Nameless son. Didn't Nameless say that he didn't have a girlfriend? He already had a son this big? Lu Chen looked at the little beast that was tightly hugging him. His face was full of confusion. Little beast. His son was already so big? At this moment, a roar came from afar. A white tiger jumped up from the rear of the army of the dead and pounced on Lu Chen. Lu Chen opened his eyes wide and his brain short-circuited. Springer. Before Springer arrived at Lu Chen's side, a little white mouse jumped up from its head and pounced on Lu Chen, rubbing its little head on Lu Chen's cheek. Squeak, 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 squeak. Little furball. Lu Chen grabbed the little furball with one hand and leaned it against his cheek. Springer also came. It lowered its head and rubbed Lu Chen gently. Lu Chen stroked its big tiger head. I finally found you. I finally found you. No, you found me. Ha ha ha, all of you are here. Lu Chen was so excited that his eyes were filled with tears. In the vast sixth layer heaven, he had finally found these three little guys. Dad, who beat you up like this? Little Beastie looked at Lu Chen, who was covered in wounds, with heartache and cried, Look at you, you're already injured like this. Lu Chen was also speechless. He didn't care about the minor injuries on his body. The main problem was that he was too close to the spiritual energy ball, and the impact was not small. In addition, his attack had been interrupted halfway, so his chest was tight. I'm fine, little beast. You've grown so big. Lu Chen stroked Springer's head, his eyes full of fatherly love. After being called Dad by the little beast, Lu Chen had no choice but to accept this identity, and had already gotten into the role. Dad, we didn't catch up to you and were sent to the God-Spill continent by that puppet master. We didn't know how to leave the continent, and we didn't know how to find you. We only hunted in the fallen demon forest every day. Lu Chen took a deep breath. Hunting every day. How could there be a good result if these three guys hunted freely? Is the fallen demon forest still there? It's still there, but there are fewer and fewer demon beasts there. Springer said regretfully. Of course, there were fewer and fewer demon beasts. Springer alone could eat the entire fallen demon forest. If this went on for a bit longer, perhaps the God-Spill continent might not be able to escape. Oh, that's right. Rhubarb, come out. Look who's back. Lu Chen also called Rhubarb out. As soon as Rhubarb came out, Springer, and Springer threw themselves at Rhubarb, almost squashing Rhubarb. Rhubarb, we missed you so much. Rhubarb was ravaged by these three guys, and he let out a series of miserable screams. Lu Chen never thought that he would be able to find Springer, and Springer while he was fighting the army of the dead. It had to be known that a large part of the reason why he had founded the Demonic Academy was to find these three guys. Just as this family was happily reminiscing about the past, a furious roar suddenly erupted from afar. Ah, who is it? A tiger's eyes flashed from behind the army of the dead. His eyes were filled with anger as he fiercely said, Solipsistic, so you have a son. Beast tamer, right? You're quite something. Very good, the whole family is gathered together, right? Good, I'll send you all to hell. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. Those little brats in the Demonic Academy always liked to ask him, Dean, is this your strongest state? Lu Chen always shook his head. After coming to the 6th layer heaven, he had never truly opened his strongest state. But now he was in his strongest state. Starting from the 5th layer heaven, Lu Chen would only be at his strongest state when Springer, and Springer were all beside him. Oh right, there was also Rhubarb. Who knew when this guy would awaken? In short, count him in first. Springer and Springer stood beside Lu Chen, while Springer lay on top of Rhubarb's head. The 5 people's gazes directly passed the tiger's eyes and looked at the endless army of the dead. Dad, are we going to kill all these guys? Springer asked. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen decided to make things clear to these 3 guys, so as to avoid accidental injuries. The girl on the top of the tower is one of us. Oh, that's to say, except for that big sister, all of them have to die. Springer had already understood. Lu Chen looked at Springer again. Springer hurriedly squeaked to confirm the information. Well, very good, Springer, this guy must be carefully reminded. Lu Chen put away the silver gallbladder, and a pair of black and white swords slowly appeared. Then Lu Chen said calmly, Let's start. Chapter 1063. The alliance between Xingyuan continent and Qingze continent had already begun. With the opening created by Lu Chen, Qingze continent's 600,000 elite troops surrounded the army of the dead from behind. Almost at the same time, Xingyuan continent's 500,000 troops broke through the array. The other party did not have many troops. They were originally relying on the array, the advantage of the netherworld, and their confident reinforcements to defend. Even if they could not defend, they could quickly request for reinforcements to complete the defense. However, the 150,000 army of the dead suddenly fell into a predicament. Not only were they attacked from the front and back, but there was also no response to their calls for reinforcements. Compared to the army of the dead, the troops chosen to break through the encirclement from the 2 continents were all elite troops. Moreover, with the previous experience of failure at World Edge Pavilion, Fenglai Academy and Demonic Academy, they were even more well prepared. They brought enough spiritual energy replenishment pills, talismans to seal spiritual bodies, and fire element enchantments. In the battle of life and death, the army of cultivators displayed amazing combat power. In just 1 hour, they had already wiped out the 150,000 army of the dead. Celestial Fortress's Celestial Sea Pavilion Master and Zhongxianji's Mabe Immortal King even joined forces to kill the 3-star Ghost King level Ghost General. After that, the troops guarding outside quickly sent people to enter, set up arrays, and quickly built simple fortifications to defend the entrance to the netherworld. Their plan did not end there. Zhongxiangu had already contacted Huayuan continent and was preparing to break through the third entrance of the Army of the Dead. The two teams successfully met and continued to rush to the next entrance to the netherworld without stopping. As the number of people kept increasing and the military power became stronger, the later battles became faster and faster, and the casualties became smaller and smaller. After taking down the fourth entrance, the army's effective combat power had exceeded 2 million people. In addition, there were more than 100,000 injured and 220,000 dead. This number was mainly the casualties from the previous two battles, and it was still decreasing rapidly. At this moment, Mabe and the others were a little surprised. Strange, the Army of the Dead only deployed such a small number of people to defend the entrance? It shouldn't be. The Hall Master of the Trampling on Immortals frowned as well. We've already broken through the 4 entrances. Why hasn't the Army of the Dead reacted at all? Their rear defenses aren't that strong, and they don't have any reinforcements. Could it be that the Army of the Dead is so careless that they think we won't dare to enter the underworld? The Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master added, I heard from a few survivors that someone was holding back the reinforcements, causing the reinforcements that were originally stationed at the Spectre Plains to not arrive in time. It's just that I think they might be misleading us. Could it be Nameless? The Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master frowned. He knew that Nameless had entered the underworld. It can't be, right? He can hold on until now? The Hall Master of the Trampling on Immortals' face was full of doubt. According to the time given by the Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master, he should have been in the underworld for 7 to 8 hours. I heard that Nameless' body is weak. There's no way he can hold on for so long. Mabe nodded. Nameless has the creation space. That skill is indeed insane, but the creation space is more useful in defense. This time he's going to save people and is on the offensive. The creation space can't capture the opponent, so it's useless. I really can't think of how he can hold on until now. Besides, his stamina is really weak. He can't fight a long battle. Unless he broke through the Army of the Dead on the Spectre Plains? That's impossible. Those soul soldiers said that there are hundreds of millions of Army of the Dead on the Spectre Plains. Moreover, there are still more souls from the Eternal Soul Palace joining in. It's impossible to kill them all. I think that if there's really someone holding back the Army of the Dead, it could be an army with a shocking number of people. But who has the power to hold back the hundreds of millions of Army of the Dead? Everyone was puzzled. Their breakout this time, other than encountering the stubborn resistance of the defending army, everything else had gone too smoothly. Why don't we go take a look? Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master said. The Army of the Dead hasn't sent any reinforcements yet. I feel that no matter what the reason is, it's not normal. Perhaps this is our chance. The commanders were somewhat hesitant. After all, their current mission was to break through the gates of the underworld on the various continents. If they could occupy more gates of the underworld, it would be of great significance to the entire campaign. Taking the risk to investigate the situation on the Spectre Plains seemed to be too reckless. However, on the other hand, considering the battles at the 4 gates of the underworld, it didn't make sense that the Army of the Dead hadn't sent any reinforcements. If this happened to be the Army of the Dead's weak point, once seized, it could even decide the outcome of the campaign. From this point, Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master's suggestion couldn't help but be tempted. How about this, we'll split up? Mabe suddenly said. 5 million will continue to work with the armies of the other continents to break through the gates of the underworld. The other 1 million will head to the Spectre Plains. The Spectre Plains isn't far from here. They haven't sent any reinforcements yet, so I believe that there shouldn't be any defenders there. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if we really encounter a defender, even if we're completely wiped out, it won't affect you from attacking the gates of the underworld. Heavenly Sea Pavilion Master nodded and said, if their rear is really empty, we can even directly turn the tide of the battle. Opportunities on the battlefield are fleeting. We can't hesitate any longer. They all agreed with Mabe's suggestion. Celestial Fortress and Zhongxianji's 2 teams, around 1 million people, would head to the Spectre Plains. This place was only half an hour away from the Spectre Plains. The million-strong army was rapidly advancing through the underworld. The demonic academy's people followed in the group, looking very nervous. Do you think that the person holding back the entire Spectre Plains is the Dean? Xiao Zhan asked his fellow disciples as he ran. Chu Tian was silent for a while, before he let out a sigh. Actually, the demonic academy's disciples knew better than anyone else that the Dean's biggest weakness was his weak physical strength. They didn't have much hope that the Dean could hold back the Spectre Plains for 7 to 8 hours. 7 to 8 hours of fierce fighting? They would rather believe that the Dean had quickly killed his way out and left the Spectre Plains. After all, this was in line with the Dean's strength. Many people thought so, but even more people thought that it was a lie made up by the few survivors. Either there were no defenders in the Spectre Plains at all, or there were already defenders waiting for them to walk into a trap. Or, there really was a powerful army that was fighting fiercely with the army of the dead there. However, whether it was a trap or not, whether there were allies or not, they had to verify it. The army of cultivators arrived at the Spectre Plains in 20 minutes. When they arrived, the 1 million people were stunned by the scene in front of them. There were no traps here, or more accurately, the countless army of the dead here didn't ambush them. There was also no powerful army of cultivators here. There were only 3 figures here, slaughtering madly in the endless army of the dead. A 14 or 15-year-old human killed a group of people with a raise of his hand. A white tiger went deep into the enemy's formation and was surrounded by tens of thousands of people. It was like scratching an itch through a shoe. When it attacked, it raised its paw and killed the enemy instantly. There was also a large white rat surrounded by broken limbs. Even the army of the dead trembled in fear when they saw it. Behind the 3 freaks, a rhubarb dog stood beside a man in black, barking at the army of the dead from time to time. Nameless had already rested for a while. Lu Chen didn't even need to do anything. With the help of Little Green's pills, he had recovered a lot of his physical strength. He patted Rhubarb's head, shook his head, and said, "Rhubarb, oh Rhubarb, look at the 3 of them. They've become so powerful, and you're the only one who's still in the cheerleading team. You can't do anything, but you're number 1 in attracting hatred." Chapter 1064. There was no magnificent army here, only Lu Chen and the other 3. The cultivators were already frightened by the scene in front of them. Who is that young man? He's so strong. How can his pet be so strong? Is that a sky-swallowing rat? Oh my god, it can even eat the souls of the dead. The beast god and the others were fighting, so they had forgotten about Lu Chen. However, the disciples of the demonic academy immediately saw Lu Chen. "It's our president." Xiao Zhan was so excited that he was the first to rush to Lu Chen. The other disciples followed him. "President." Lu Chen turned around and looked at Xiao Zhan and the others. "Why are you here?" "President, you're still alive." Xiao Zhan said excitedly, "We're working with the other continents to push the defense line to the netherworld." Lu Chen rolled his eyes at Xiao Zhan. "What are you talking about? Pushing the defense line to the netherworld? It seems that you've already succeeded? We've just occupied 4 entrances, but there were no reinforcements, so we came to check. We didn't expect to see you and that young man here." "President, who's that guy? He's been with you for so long?" asked Xiao Zhan. Yi Fan, Wuxian, and Skyfall were all attracted by the beast god. That guy was so strong that he killed the army of the dead. "That guy is so strong. President, who is he?" Lu Chen shook his head helplessly. "He's my son." "Son?" The disciples were all shocked. The president had a son? He's already so old? Lu Chen stood up and looked at the little beast and the others. The 3 of them had been fighting together since they were little, and their cooperation was perfect. The little beast's elemental enchantment and defensive shield, the little furball's bloodline bond, and the little originator's immunity to both physical and spiritual attacks. The 3 of them had killed much more enemies than he had when he was fighting alone. Demonfall Forest has allowed these little fellows to grow too much. Lu Chen sighed. As long as the enemy did not send out Gao Xing Ghost King, Lu Chen was not worried about the safety of these 3 guys at all. Director, is your stamina alright? Yi Fan asked. My stamina consumption isn't that big. Moreover, Little Critter and the others helped me gain some time to rest. I have already recovered, Lu Chen said. Hearing Lu Chen's words, the students' hanging hearts were finally relieved. At this moment, the army of the dead split into 4 groups. What was surprising was that at the same time, dark clouds began to gather in the sky as lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A strong gale swept through the entire specter plane, bringing with it a faint chill. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. It seemed that the other party could no longer sit still. Solipsistic. That voice rang out again. I admit that I underestimated you, but that won't affect your final outcome. More than 40 figures rushed out from the army of the dead's formation. These 30 over people all looked unusually calm. Even when they saw the 3 beasts slaughtering, there was still no fluctuation in their eyes. Although they did not speak, the surrounding army of the dead lowered their heads slightly when they saw these people, not daring to look them in the eye. Even the ghost General Tiger Eye did not have such prestige. Solipsistic, the appetizer is over. Next is the main course. Remember, you came to the wrong place. The King of Hell said coldly. After killing you, I will kill these trash who barged into the underworld as well. At this moment, the army of the dead that was entangling Little Critter, and the others also began to retreat. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and shouted, Little Critter, Little Furball, Little Originator, come back. The 3 of them gave up on chasing the deserters, and quickly returned to Lu Chen's side. These soul soldiers should be the Spectre Guards. Their status is second only to the Ghost King. Lu Chen reminded. Dad, the one who keeps talking seems to be the Ghost King. Why hasn't he come out yet? Little Critter asked. Lu Chen snorted coldly. They probably don't want to get away for the time being. Otherwise, they would have come out by now. Let's not worry about that. Let's deal with these Spectre Guards first. If they don't come to us, we will go to them. Standing in front of the hundreds of millions of army of the dead, Lu Chen held the ultimate sword in his hand, together with Little Critter, Little Furball, and Little Originator, waiting for those super powerhouses. Behind them, millions of cultivators were also waiting quietly at this moment. The intensity of the battle now was not something they could handle. Even though Yi Fan and the others were very good at fighting beyond their level, it would still take some time for them to defeat the Ghost King, let alone the high-level Ghost King. Kill him. At the command of the King of Hell, 40 Spectre Guards blurred and surrounded Lu Chen and the others in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Wuxia carried the 9 beasts' exquisite pagoda on his back, and seemed to have retreated. Lu Chen watched as Li Wei was taken away. His eyes widened in anger as he roared. Where are you taking Li Wei? You are really gutless. Are you afraid that you can't defeat me, so you took Li Wei away? A Spectre Guard sneered. Can't defeat you? Are you dreaming? Because the game is over and you have reached the end of your road. You took that heavenly fox away. Solipsistic cultivator, you actually forced us Spectre Guards to take action. However, now that the 4 Ghost Kings have taken over the Eternal Soul Palace, they can still awaken those top-level Spectre Guards. A Spectre Guard stared at Lu Chen. When the time comes, it will be the end of you cultivators. Another Spectre Guard said. However, you were able to force us out. At least you delayed the formation of the Eternal Soul Palace's top-level army, which can be considered as buying some time for you cultivators. Unfortunately, this farce is over. You and the cultivator army behind you, the army that occupied the gate of the underworld, only have one fate. Die. These people were indeed Spectre Guards. Lu Chen knew that if he did not defeat these Spectre Guards, he would not have a chance to save Li Wei. Moreover, if he chased after Wuxia now, the people behind him would probably be surrounded and killed by the army of the dead. Among these people, there were also God-fiend disciples. He could not leave them alone. Lu Chen snorted. Just as he was about to speak, the little beast suddenly spoke. So annoying. So long-winded. What Spectre Guards? Aren't they just some gatekeepers? Hey, how many of you are there? Attack together. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Good fellow, wasn't this line his? In the end, the little beast snatched it away. Children are indeed troublesome when they grow up. Attack together? Humph, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The specter guard said. If you're in a hurry to die, we'll fulfill your wish. Boom, 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 boom. A series of violent spiritual energy instantly exploded. 40 specter guards simultaneously entered the soul body as one state. Their bodies grew to at least 3 meters tall, their bodies emitting terrifying spiritual energy and pressure. Mabe's eyes widened. These specter guards should be at the 7-star Ghost King realm. 47-star Ghost Kings. Heavens, if these guys had joined the battle earlier, perhaps some of the continent's defensive lines would have already been broken. Pavilion Master Hai frowned. The Eternal Soul Palace's true experts have yet to appear? This, if that's really the case, the main battlefield will not be able to hold on very soon. Mabe faintly said. Perhaps our only hope of victory lies in the nameless. Chapter 1065. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. The strongest opponent he had ever met was Changming. In terms of the strength of the spirit energy they released, he didn't think that there was anyone here who could give him a stronger pressure than Changming. I thought that the soul guards were all at least 9-star Ghost Kings. So they're only SS. Lu Chen said coldly. I understand. You don't represent the entire underworld. Otherwise, the souls of the dead in the Eternal Soul Palace should directly join the army of the dead. You don't need to use any methods to tame them to become a member of the army of the dead. Tame? You're wrong. A soul guard said. Since ancient times, the souls of the dead have to go through the Eternal Soul Palace. Oh no, it's us. Originally, we would have become trash without any beliefs or goals. It was the King of Hell that gave us a different choice. The King of Hell is the hero of the dead. He is our belief. When the heroes of the underworld were fighting for hegemony, the King of Hell led the army for hundreds of years and gradually swallowed thousands of forces to become the undisputed king of the underworld. He controlled the most important Eternal Soul Palace in the underworld. That is a place all the souls of the dead must go. In order to seize the young world, he endured hardships for hundreds of years and expanded the army of the dead. He collected young energy and finally established the underworld today. He will also lead us to seize the young world and leave this barren land to enjoy better resources. Those souls of the dead should feel proud to be a member of the army of the dead. Lu Chen coldly snorted. He didn't know if these soul guards truly supported the King of Hell, or if they were brainwashed too thoroughly. From their words and actions, it seemed like they were dead set on following the King of Hell. Now Lu Chen had already guessed most of it. Why did the stronger souls of the dead appear later in the Eternal Soul Palace? That was because the will of the strong souls of the dead was firmer, and it was harder to forcibly instill ideas into them. And the reason why the King of Hell didn't let someone stronger take up the role of spirit guardian was because he wasn't able to control someone with such a high star level. Those super strong souls of the dead could only be controlled by strong enough powerhouses. Because of this, these soul guards were only willing to appear now. The 4 great ghost kings knew that their own backyard was on fire, so they did not show up until now. From this, Lu Chen was certain that the King of Hell and the others were preparing to control a group of extremely powerful experts. So much so that they could only watch as he slaughtered everyone here. If this group of experts were to come out, the 6th heaven might not be able to withstand it. In that case, he didn't have much time left. Facing 40 soul guardians, Lu Chen finally had to get serious. Although Qiao Ming was one of the strongest mortal kings in Xingyuan continent, Lu Chen had only killed Qiao Ming's body 1,000 years after his death. It was far inferior to Qiao Ming's strength when he was alive. At that time, if Qiao Ming hadn't been merciful, he would have perished together with him at most. Although these soul guardians hadn't reached the 9th level of the Ghost King realm, they were able to become soul guardians in the eternal underworld, second only to the 4 great ghost kings. They definitely had the ability to fight above their level, and they were all outstanding figures in the army of the dead. Since you've decided to follow the King of Hell, I have no choice but to kill you. Lu Chen snorted coldly and shouted, Celestial Demon Coexistence. Then Lu Chen activated the God of War Possession, Demon Transformation, Land of Death, Boiling Dragon Blood, and 3 Lives Reincarnation. At the same time, his left arm rapidly demonized, and his normal arm suddenly became ferocious. Little beast god glanced at his dad and got a fright. Dad, this is... Lu Chen smiled. You're not the only ones who have become stronger. This is the emptiness of gods and demons' arm. In the ghost plane, the wind was changing. The army of the dead and the army of cultivators were facing each other. However, at the moment it wasn't the two sides that were fighting, but the 40-odd people at the center of the battlefield. It's about to begin. 7-star Ghost King Realm. Sir. Yi Fan stared at the battlefield. All of a sudden, dozens of blurred shadows that were too fast to be seen by human eyes began to move on the battlefield. One of them shouted, "That young man is not a human being. He must be one of the solipsistic's battle pets. As long as we can kill the solipsistic, we can deal with him later." Instantly, the 10 soul envoys dashed toward Little Beast God and the other two. They had already seen through the 3 beasts' strength and knew that fighting them head-on wouldn't end well. The best way was to find a way to contain them. Separate them. Spirit coffins and ghost coffins. A large amount of black smoke gushed out from the 10 soul envoys. The black smoke didn't disperse freely. Instead, it formed 3 independent areas, like walls made of fog, which separated Little Beast God, and the originator. Dad. I'm trapped. Where are you? Lu Chen heard the Little Beast's voice. He shouted back. Don't be distracted on the battlefield. Don't worry about me when dealing with your enemies. Yes, Dad. After separating the 3 beasts, there were still 30 soul envoys. Their goal was to kill Lu Chen together. Solipsistic. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant in the netherworld. Fall of the heavens. Several soul envoys used the same move. Let me show you the real strength of the netherworld. Suddenly, hundreds of streaks of red light fell from the red sky of the netherworld, aiming at Lu Chen precisely. That was another skill that borrowed the power of nature. Lu Chen didn't dare to take it head-on. 9 steps in the void. Lu Chen quickly dodged. However, the streaks of light seemed to know where Lu Chen was going to land. Just as Lu Chen stopped for a moment, the streaks of light were about to hit him. Lu Chen's eyes widened. The speed was too fast. 9 steps in the void could be dodged, but his reaction time was a bit strenuous. Don't give him a chance to attack. This guy hasn't used Raging Flames incinerate the heavens yet. He must have a trick up his sleeve. The other soul envoys quickly followed up with their skills. Lu Chen's heart couldn't help but tighten. These soul envoys were indeed experts. They even knew that he had a trick up his sleeve. Ghost Walk. In an instant, the figures of these soul envoys became faintly discernible. This kind of faintness wasn't because they were too fast and couldn't be seen clearly, but because their bodies had become illusory. Sword Storm. Suddenly, a strong wind attacked Lu Chen from behind. Lu Chen didn't have time to turn around. Quick shift. Just as he stopped, a cold light was already at Lu Chen's throat. Die. Spiritual Sword. Lu Chen clenched his teeth and used 9 steps in the void at the critical moment. At the same time, he raised his left arm. Void Guard. Even with the speed of 9 steps in the void, he couldn't completely avoid this attack. Lu Chen had no choice but to practice dodging and defending. With a loud bang, Lu Chen was directly pushed back by the force. However, before he could stand firm, the fall of the heavens had already attacked him one after another. From the beginning of the battle until now, it had probably been less than 2 seconds, but Lu Chen had already been in danger several times. Oh my god, what kind of battle strength is this? Their coordination is simply too perfect. Xiao Zhan's eyes widened, his face full of horror. If he had been a fraction of a second slower, the dean would have been a dead man by now. Who knows how many times stronger than the creation space. Dean, please don't make a mistake. Yi Fan frowned. He didn't expect that one day, he would be so nervous that he had difficulty breathing while watching another person fight. The 30 soul guards had practiced countless times. Wave after wave of attacks, coupled with the fall of the heavens, Lu Chen didn't have the slightest chance to breathe, let alone make a move. Damn it, it's not over. Lu Chen's eyes were about to pop out. He suddenly shouted, Celestial Devil Astral Form. Once the Celestial Devil Astral Form was activated, Lu Chen's speed suddenly increased. The fall of the heavens couldn't lock onto Lu Chen's figure, giving Lu Chen a chance to counterattack. So what if you know that I still have a killer move? Unfortunately, even if you guessed it, you can't avoid it. Lu Chen shouted angrily. All of you die. Heaven burning earth fire. Out of everyone's expectations, Lu Chen directly used a super powerful skill, Heaven burning earth third style. Chapter 1066. In an instant the earth disappeared. The monstrous flames that erupted from the ground burned the entire specter plane to ashes in an instant. The earth, plants, and the entire plane, all of them instantly evaporated in the fire. The rolling flames erupted from the earth's core, shooting straight into the sky. The army of cultivators looked at the neat dividing line in front of them, and everyone was scared out of their wits. In front of this dividing line was azure hell. Magma and flames shot straight into the sky, and the whole scene turned into a red sea of fire. My God! Ma Bei's eyes widened. Heaven and earth destruction. Heaven and earth destruction. This guy, is he still human? Xiao Zhan's eyes widened. He was also good at using fire, but compared to this move, his strongest skill was simply the difference between the light of a firefly and the brilliance of the sun and moon. How can the fire element have such a terrifying skill? Impossible. This is already beyond the scope of humans. Could it be that the Dean has already succeeded in passing the tribulation? No matter how strong cultivators were, they were still human if they didn't become immortals. But heaven-burning earth fire already had such a terrifying ability, it was simply beyond the understanding of these top geniuses. I suddenly thought of something. Chu Tian muttered. The time when the Dean entered the sixth heavenly layer seemed to be only a few months earlier than us. Chu Tian's sudden mention of this reminded many people. The Dean had always been a newcomer. I didn't expect Nameless to have such a terrifying skill. Yi Tian couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. It turns out that we were all wrong. Although we raised our expectations of Nameless time and time again, we still underestimated his strength by far. This guy, what kind of terrifying monster is he? Under heaven-burning earth fire, Lu Chen floated in midair, his long hair and black robe fluttering in the flames. His eyes were like the god of death, staring at the surrounding sea of fire. Actually, even Lu Chen himself was frightened by his own move. Back in Songyuan continent, due to insufficient spiritual energy, he couldn't use heaven-burning earth fire. This was his first time using it, and the result was really terrifying. In terms of the strength of the move, heaven-burning earth fire should be Lu Chen's strongest skill currently. What was more terrifying was that this skill perfectly restrained the souls of the dead. Quick, use the immortal resistance pill. These soul guards were also prepared. They knew that Lu Chen had the underworld earth fire, so they had prepared immortal pills to increase the fire resistance. However, Lu Chen's fire elemental affinity had already reached 9,700. His fire elemental affinity also affected the intensity of the flames. Even a 7-star ghost king would not be able to survive in the face of such terrifying underworld hellfire. No, I still can't block it. The fire damage is too high. Lu Chen just said lightly, heated brick bed? A few thousand stoves won't save you. All of you are already dead. The next one will be your king. These soul guards were instantly ignited by the earth fire. They couldn't believe it. This is an immortal technique. Why are you able to use immortal techniques? Impossible, your spiritual energy can't support it. Immortal arts? Lu Chen did not know what this meant. He only knew that the earth fire burning the heavens was enough to kill these soul guardians. The 30 soul guardians had nowhere to hide under the endless eruption of the earth fire. They were instantly reduced to ashes. With a boom, the cultivator army was in chaos. Killed in one move. Who is this person? A disciple from the Qingzi continent's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. These are 37-star ghost kings. It shouldn't be a problem for them to conquer several continents. In the end they were all killed in one move by him. Solipsistic. Ma Bei narrowed his eyes. When did you become so strong? When he was at the Soul Martial Hall, Nameless was not strong to this extent. How many months had it been? If this was the case, then he could probably flatten Zhongxiange. Now that he thought about it, it was fortunate that he had reconciled with Nameless. Otherwise, the suppression on him would have led to Zhongxianji's downfall. Some people will become stronger the more they are suppressed. Ma Bei's eyes revealed complicated emotions. Lu Chen's growth was the hope of the sixth heaven. This was what he wanted to see. However, at the same time, this person had become an uncontrollable monster. This was what Zhongxiange did not want to see the most. Xiao Zhan shook his head and said to Yi Fan, "Our dean is indeed the leader of the evildoers. I finally understand. I thought that the dean was a little impulsive to protect you from the Purple Sky Palace. Now I know that the dean dared to do so because he has the strength to do so." Yi Fan shook his head and said, "No, I am very sure that the dean did not have the strength to fight against the Purple Sky Palace. It was just that this period of time gave the dean room to grow, and he became where he is today." Chu Tian said faintly, "So don't give the dean time to grow. Otherwise, when he comes out, you will find that you are no longer his opponent." The 30 Soul Guardians had been killed, but Lu Chen was not too happy. He tilted his head and looked at the army of the dead in the distance. The army of the dead was actually retreating in an orderly manner. His raging flames burning the heavens had almost covered the entire specter plane, but it was still unable to break through the defensive barrier of the army of the dead. If it were not for that barrier, the army of the dead would have been burned to ashes by the raging flames burning the heavens. It seemed that the king of hell, the demon lord, still had the ability to block the raging flames burning the heavens. Moreover, he had already activated the soul-body unification. Even if there was no battle below, the soul-body unification would be cleared in a short time. Without the soul-body unification, he could not activate the raging flames burning the heavens. However, he did not have much time left for himself. He had to stop the king of hell, the demon lord, from controlling the souls of those super strong warriors as soon as possible. In other words, in the next battle with the 4 great ghost kings, he had to fight with his original body. Well, when he activated the raging flames burning the heavens, he was already mentally prepared. Then Lu Chen looked at Little Critter. The spirit coffin and ghost coffin had already been scattered by the violent spiritual energy of the raging flames burning the heavens. As the raging flames burning the heavens attacked indiscriminately, Lu Chen did not attack that area to avoid accidentally injuring Little Critter and the rest. At the same time, the 10 spirit guardians were also spared. However, when they saw the horrifying environment around them, they were already frightened out of their wits. The surrounding flames soared into the sky. 30 spirit guardians were all killed in an instant, but the solipsistic demon lord was still standing there. The solipsistic demon lord killed 37-star Ghost King realm experts in an instant. What kind of terrifying combat power was this? They looked at Lu Chen with too many questions in their hearts. Why was this person so much stronger than before? Why was he able to activate such a horrifying skill? This was a skill that surpassed the upper limit of the Ghost King realm, or the Human King realm. What kind of monster did they provoke in the underworld? 9 steps in the void. Lu Chen flashed and appeared in front of a spirit guardian. Looking at the pair of blood-red eyes that were so close to him, this spirit guardian actually felt a wave of fear. Perhaps it was the last bit of stubbornness that made this spirit guardian say, You can't defeat the king of hell. He is the god of the underworld." Lu Chen sneered. "God is it? The one I kill is God. Attacking the void, shattering the void." Chapter 1067. Normally, the 7-star Ghost King would have been able to avoid Lu Chen's attack. But the key was that he had been shocked by the power of the heaven-burning earth fire, and had lost his will to fight. Moreover, their initial mission was to pester Little Beast and the other 2. They were used to avoiding direct confrontations. The skill that should not have hit him so easily landed a punch on his body. On the other side, Little Beast and the other 2 quickly joined the harvesting team. Etian heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that there was no suspense in the rest of the battle. Perhaps this is the effect of the coercion. Etian said. It makes the enemy cower before the battle. This way, even if the opponent is strong, he will not be able to exert his combat power. Thousand Stone Bao could not help but sigh. 1-star Emperor Xiao can actually make a 7-star Ghost King realm super expert cower in fear. What kind of strange situation is this? I think only our Dean can do this. As expected, the remaining 10 Soul Guardians were quickly killed by Lu Chen and the rest. After the battle, except for the road leading to the City of Dead Souls, the area where the Cultivator army was, and the area covered by the Spirit Coffin and Ghost Coffin was still intact, the other areas had become a huge abyss. Even the flowing magma could be seen. Standing on the original plane now was like standing on the top of a cliff. Most of the 40 Soul Guardians had turned into ashes. Only a few unlucky ones were still in Little Furball's stomach. After the battle, Little Furball became a white mouse again, and jumped onto Lu Chen's shoulder immediately. Little Beast and Originator also returned to Lu Chen's side. "Dad, did you just learn that move?" "It's too powerful," Little Beast said. Lu Chen smiled. "I got it when I was at the 5th heaven, but I never practiced it. It's quite powerful, but the consumption is too terrifying. I can't use it until I achieve soul-body unification." Little Beast nodded. "That's true. It would be a bit exaggerated if such a terrifying skill could be used continuously. Dad, where are we going next?" Little Beast was energized at the mention of the next arrangement. "We are not tired at all." Lu Chen's face darkened. In terms of endurance, he was really inferior to Little Beast and the others. This was especially true for Su Qianxuan. The fact that Su Qianxuan was getting stronger and stronger was the biggest bug in itself. Lu Chen looked ahead. "Let's go, Li Wei." "Li Wei? Oh, was it that big sister from earlier? Dad, are you getting married? Then she's my stepmother, right?" Lu Chen was just about to fight to the death when the little critter's sudden question made him feel like a deflated balloon. "What stepmother? She and I are just friends." Lu Chen glared at Little Beast. "Just friends? I've heard that there is no true friendship between men and women." The little beast had a puzzled look on its face. Lu Chen almost spat out blood. This kid stayed outside for more than half a year. What did he learn? How did he know so much? "Dad, you're not young anymore. Hurry up and find a wife. Although I don't know that Sister Li Wei, I still prefer Sister Luo Yao. How about we bring Sister Luo Yao over when we reach the 5th heaven? When the time comes, you can mate and give me some younger brothers and sisters." PFFF. Lu Chen almost spat out several liters of blood. The little beast god was still a mythological beast in essence, so it was not wrong to say that it was mating. But why did he say it so easily? Well, the more he explained, the more difficult it would be to explain. Lu Chen was powerless to explain. "Now is not the time to talk about this. We have to go to the Eternal Soul Palace immediately." "Okay, Dad." Not long after, Yi Fan jumped over the cliff from the crowd to Lu Chen's side. His eyes rested on Little Beast for a moment. Especially when he saw Little Beast's 2-star King Realm badge, he could not help but gasp. How old was it? 2-star Human King? The most frightening thing was that from its strength, it seemed to be even stronger than a 2-star Human King. "Oh. Yi Fan, what's wrong?" Lu Chen looked at Yi Fan strangely. "Dean, Ma Bei and the others asked me to ask you if you want to return to the Yang world. We haven't rescued them yet. What's the point of going back? Besides, we can't wait for the King of Hell to release the experts of the Eternal Soul Palace." Lu Chen frowned. The King of Hell is controlling the Eternal Soul Palace. If he really releases the souls of those super experts, 6th heaven will not be able to hold on. Yi Fan said worriedly, "Dean, we know that. But you don't have soul-body fusion for a while. How are you going to fight against the 4 Ghost Kings?" Lu Chen took a deep breath. "I don't have time to rest now. I'm afraid that the next time I come to the underworld, the opponents will be even stronger. Also, it's hard to say if 6th heaven can hold on until then. I have no way out." Yi Fan lowered his head and said, "Dean will go with you." Lu Chen frowned. "You guys should go back. The King of Hell's strength is terrifying. You should have seen it just now. My heaven-burning earth fire was still unable to break through the defense of the army of the dead. I'm guessing that the defensive barrier was laid down by the King of Hell. We know. It's because he's strong that we have to go." Yi Fan said firmly. "Although our strength isn't enough to fight Dean, don't forget that you still have dual heaven's might. We still have some use." This. Lu Chen was somewhat hesitant. He didn't have full confidence in fighting against the King of Hell. Once he lost, the people following him would probably die a miserable death. Dean, if you lose, it's the same as Sixth Heaven losing. Where can we run to? Yi Fan suddenly said. Since that's the case, why don't we go all out and fight? Also, I don't know about others, but how can we, the people of the Demonic Academy, abandon the Dean? When we first joined the Demonic God Academy, didn't Martial Uncle AC of Clouds say that if we wanted to defy the heavens, we had to join the Demonic God Academy? When it's time to defy the heavens, how can we shrink back? Lu Chen, who was still conflicted, suddenly felt relieved after hearing Yi Fan's words. His academy, his disciples didn't disappoint him. Good, then follow me and kill the myriad ancient soul hall. Lu Chen said proudly. Dean, do you know where the myriad ancient soul hall is? Lu Chen took out the underworld compass and shook his head. Why isn't the myriad ancient soul hall's location marked here? Right now, I can only guess that it might be in the King of Hell City. At this moment, an arrow suddenly flew through the air. Yi Fan's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast as he grabbed the arrow. This arrow wasn't actually very fast. Its target seemed to be Lu Chen, who was looking down at the map, but it was a bit off. Yi Fan was just about to chase after the arrow when he suddenly discovered that there was a slip of paper attached to the arrow. He strangely handed the slip of paper to Lu Chen. After Lu Chen opened it, he suddenly froze and looked back in astonishment. There was nothing on the horizon. Dean, what's this? Yi Fan asked. Lu Chen frowned. 50 kilometers northwest of the King of Hell City is the Myriad Ancient Soul Hall. Yi Fan was also very astonished. Someone had actually sent them a message. Chapter 1068. In a remote mountain range in the underworld, a giant dragon circled around for a few times before suddenly accelerating and disappearing into the forest. That black dragon didn't leave. In fact, he had only shrunk his body and entered the territory of the army of the dead. This was a village near a mountain and a river. When the man returned, dozens of people walked out of the house in twos and threes. Hey Rue, how is it? Someone asked. The man said, I've already told that kid the location of the Myriad Soul Hall. Right now he's bringing people there. The leader of the Black Dragons, the middle-aged man who had given Lu Chen the black gold dragon costume, walked out and looked toward the northwest. The Myriad Soul Hall. If we can kill the King of Hell and release the souls of the dead in the Myriad Soul Hall, the underworld can be considered restored and returned to its origin. I wonder if he can do it. Everyone was silent. Suddenly, He Rui looked up and said excitedly, Xianlong, should we go help him? Help. The Black Dragon man froze and looked at the people behind him. The original underworld Black Dragon race had at least several 100,000 people, but now, there were only a few dozen left. If it were 2,000 years ago, I would have acted without hesitation. But now, we've all experienced too much and don't want to get involved in this battle anymore. Xianlong's voice was filled with weariness and vicissitudes. Leading the way for him is the most we can do. Xianlong, have you thought about it? Does the King of Hell really not know of our existence? Another clansman said. The reason he hasn't acted against us is probably because he doesn't have the time. When he unified the underworld, did he leave behind the bloodline of his enemies? The existence of the underworld Black Dragon race was originally a threat to him. Once he took over the young world, with his personality, wouldn't he eliminate them by the roots? His words quickly resonated with many people. We don't want to fight for hegemony, we just want to live. Just like in the Myriad Calamity Abyss. Even if all hope was lost, weren't we still struggling at death's door? That's right, if we don't kill the King of Hell, he'll kill us in the end. Have you forgotten how we were imprisoned in the Myriad Calamity Abyss? Myriad Ancient Soul Palace was the most terrifying. Now that the King of Hell controlled Myriad Soul Palace, he definitely knew how to use that move. When the time came, no matter how strong that brat was, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. We can't just hope for him to kill the King of Hell, but we also know that the King of Hell has a heaven-defying skill and do nothing about it. Xianlong became more and more agitated. He said angrily, I want to help him, but how? Do you want us to exterminate our entire clan to help him? We are the only black dragons left in the underworld. We have endured humiliation for thousands of years. We have stepped on the corpses of our clansmen and lived an ignoble existence in this world. Why? It was all for the dragon crystal inheritance. Are you going to use your own lives to help an outsider? What if he's another king of hell? For a time, everyone fell into silence again. What Qianlong said was not completely unreasonable. After living for so long, they had long seen through the unfathomable nature of a person's heart. He Rui lowered his head and kept shaking it. People like us don't deserve to live. These days, I keep thinking of the myriad calamity abyss and my clansmen who were devoured by me. I also think of the strange changes in the abyss and how I kicked my clansmen into the abyss. A smile suddenly appeared on his face, full of bitterness and helplessness. I still remember the ancestral teachings left by the dragon god to develop and strengthen the underworld dragon race. But now, in order to save the girl who saved him, that human didn't hesitate to charge into the underworld alone and fight against the army of the dead by himself. I don't believe that he's the king of hell. Moreover, he fused with the dragon crystal, so he's half of our kind. It's just that he hasn't fully unleashed the dragon crystal's power. I have to help him. Suddenly, He Rui raised his head and stared at Qianlong. Qianlong, your dragon blood is the purest. You stay. I'll go. With that, He Rui turned around and transformed into a flying dragon that soared into the sky. He Rui! Qianlong anxiously shouted, but He Rui left without looking back. Qianlong could only helplessly shake his head. Qianlong, He Rui alone doesn't have enough dragon blood. I'll go too. Another person also transformed into a black dragon. I can't breathe because of this guilt. Anyway, I've lived for thousands of years, so I don't care anymore. I'll go too. If that human can't defeat the king of hell, the underworld black dragons can only wait to be exterminated. Since that's the case, even if it's just a gamble, it's better than sitting here and waiting for death. Wait, Longfei. More and more clansmen flew toward the sky in the northwest direction. In the end, less than 10 clansmen remained by Qianlong's side. An old man walked up to Qianlong. Qianlong, after so many years, I originally thought that I wouldn't believe in miracles anymore. Until that day, when even the core of the underworld and the abyss of myriad calamities experienced abnormal changes, I finally understood that miracles still exist in this world. Among the cultivators, there's almost no one who can stick to their original beliefs. The Jiutian always has a way to make you give up your original beliefs. But if it's that person, I'm willing to take another gamble. Even if he's not another miracle, at least he's a chance for me to redeem myself. With that, the old man transformed into a slightly older black dragon and left the quiet village with the last group of clansmen. Suddenly, Qianlong was the only one left in the village. He looked at the empty village with a gloomy heart. Was I wrong? Qianlong let out a long sigh. After standing there for a long time, he returned to his house. If you want to die, go ahead. Ma Bei arranged for his disciples to ride on their mounts and led Lu Chun and the others. The million-strong army of cultivators flew across the Spectre Plain, which had changed beyond recognition. Someone sent a message to Ma Bei, Pavilion Master Hai, and the others, saying that they had seized another entrance to the underworld. However, Ma Bei and the others couldn't feel happy at this time. The entrance to the underworld? Now they knew that it wasn't the key at all. Even the main battlefield on the continents of the six heavens wasn't the key. The final battle between the underworld and the Yang world was on their side. The fate of the six heavens was now in the hands of one person. This kind of pressure wasn't something that one or two entrances to the underworld could alleviate. Lu Chun sat on a huge wine gourd. This mount was a flying magic treasure. Although it wasn't very domineering, it was very fast. Racing against time, this was the current consensus of everyone. The gourd had a big and small head. Lu Chun sat cross-legged at the front of the gourd, concentrating on recovering his spiritual power and physical strength. The other people were squeezed behind. At this time, no one dared to disturb Lu Chun's recovery. The journey to the Eternal Soul Palace was very long. Even if they rode on a mount and traveled at full speed, It would take more than a day to arrive. At night, Lu Chen had already recovered. However, he still sat there quietly. He wasn't recovering his physical strength or spiritual power, but was adjusting his own state. The little critter looked at Lu Chen's back from afar with worry in its heart. In the past, when Dad fought, he rarely adjusted his state like this. This meant that Dad also knew that this battle would be a true life and death battle. Chapter 1069. The cultivator army on the dozens of mounts traveling with them was very vigilant. Everyone be careful. Nameless information came from an unknown source. We need to be careful that the other party is deliberately luring us there. The teachers on the mounts reminded. However, they didn't encounter any army of the dead along the way. Looking down from above, one could see the army of the dead in Dead Soul City, Ghost Soldier City, and Bailing City. The number was incalculable. These armies were like countless tributaries, moving in all directions. These army of the dead should be going to support the main battlefield. There are actually so many of them. The army of the dead is truly innumerable. No wonder the army of the dead on the main battlefield can't be wiped out. They actually didn't stop us. Even though the army of the dead discovered Lu Chen's group, they didn't do anything and only cared about moving. The two sides only brushed past each other. Etienne narrowed his eyes slightly. From the looks of it, the information that the headmaster received is basically not a trap. If they really wanted to kill us, it's impossible that they didn't do anything when we passed by several major cities. Mabe nodded and said, "Perhaps the four Ghost Kings are also waiting for the final battle. I really didn't expect that the final battle would be here." The immortal army was unimpeded and arrived above King of Hell City on the second day. Looking down, the King of Hell City could only be described as extremely exaggerated. Even from high up in the sky, one couldn't see the entirety of the King of Hell City. After flying for another 10 minutes, although the journey was unimpeded, the closer they got to the Myriad Soul Palace, the more nervous everyone became. "Look, isn't that tower over there the Myriad Soul Palace?" Everyone looked towards the northwest. Looking carefully, it wasn't a tower at all, but a large 7-story building. Such a tall building was very rare in the Yang world, so it was mistaken for a tower. Lu Chen opened his eyes and looked towards the palace. Is that the Myriad Soul Palace? Was that the final destination after death? In front of the main hall, there were only tens of thousands of army of the dead standing in 2 neat rows. The guards who could stand guard here should not be weak. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to not see the immortal army. However, none of them raised their heads. They just stood there in an orderly manner. In front of the main hall, there was a spacious field paved with black stones. On the field, a person was sitting upright. There was a wooden table in front of him, and there was a pot of wine on the table. He poured himself a drink. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Was this one of the 4 great ghost kings? It seemed like he was already waiting for him. "Don't come any closer. Wait for me here. Little beast, let's go," Lu Chen said as he jumped down from the wine jug. When he was close to the main hall, he spread his wings to cushion the fall and landed steadily. Little Critter could fly, so it followed behind Lu Chen with Little Originator and Little Fur Ball. When Lu Chen landed, he discovered that the tens of thousands of army of the dead around him were just empty shells. Their eyes were empty, and their faces were expressionless. There was no vitality to speak of. But the badges on their chests were abnormally terrifying. Ghost King Realm 7 stars, 8 stars, and even 9 stars. The ranks of the army of the dead were truly frightening. Such an army had the ability to crush any continent in the 6th heavenly layer. Just as Lu Chen was shocked, the person sitting there suddenly said, "It is indeed difficult to control the consciousness of these people. But fortunately, they will soon be completely under my control." Lu Chen recognized the voice of the person who spoke at the first moment. It was the voice that had spoken to him on the specter plane. In other words, the person sitting there was none other than the King of Hell, Demon Lord. Lu Chen's gaze fell on that person. This person was unusually tall and sturdy. He was a member of the deity clan. The appearance of the deity clan was not much different from that of human beings, but they were tall and sturdy. They had obvious divine bodies. which could be their eyes, arms, torso, tails, or dragon scales. It was said that they had the bloodline of God. Together with the demon clan and several other clans, they were known as the strongest clans in Jiotian. However, the number of the deity clan was smaller than that of the demon clan. But all the deity clan members were very powerful. This person had black hair, and was at least 10 times bigger than Lu Chen. The huge devil horns on his head were bent backward in an exaggerated manner. It seemed that this was his divine body. The King of Hell, Demon Lord? Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes and lowered his voice. The immortal army was in an uproar. That person is the King of Hell? He is actually from our deity clan. See such a huge body, devil horns on his head. I seem to have heard of such a person before. A deity clan disciple frowned as he tried to recall something, but he couldn't remember right away. He is the underworld ruler that unified the underworld, the King of Hell, Demon Lord. The strongest of countless experts. Mabe Immortal King, can you see his rank? Mabe coldly snorted. Is there a need to see? To be able to kill his way out of countless experts, his rank must be the peak of the Ghost King realm. 9-star Ghost King peak. Moreover, he was the strongest one among them. Many people didn't expect that the first person Nameless would meet after coming to Eternal Soul Palace would be the King of Hell, Demon Lord. The King of Hell's lips curled up as he said in a heavy voice, "Solipsistic, we finally meet." Lu Chen coldly snorted. Where is Li Wei? That person faintly smiled and clapped his hands. Not long later, Wuxia carried the 9-beast jewel pagoda out of the hall. Nameless. At this time, the 9-beast jewel pagoda wasn't activated and Li Wei was awake. She looked at Lu Chen in shock. He and her son had chased her all the way here. Seeing that Li Wei was still alive, Lu Chen let out a breath of relief. The thing that he was most worried about didn't happen. Now he could focus on the next battle. Solipsistic, before the battle of life and death, how about having a drink with me? The King of Hell suddenly said. Ha, don't worry. If you don't believe in my wine, you can use your own. I've already sent your woman to you. I won't touch your friends or subordinates. I just want to have a fair fight with you. Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. At the very least, this King of Hell had the boldness of an overlord. Lu Chen walked to the table and sat down. He took out a jug of wine from his backpack and placed it on the table. The King of Hell saw this and smiled faintly. It seems that you still don't believe me. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Lu Chen sneered. Do you have any reason for me to trust you? The King of Hell didn't get angry. He only grabbed Lu Chen's jug of wine and poured himself a bowl. You don't believe me, but I can believe you. Whether it's the underworld or the young world. The only one who is qualified to drink with me is you. This is a toast to you. With that, the King of Hell drained the bowl in one gulp. Lu Chen looked indifferently at the King of Hell drinking the wine, and put down the bowl. Why aren't you content with the underworld and insist on attacking the young world? Is it just for resources? With your current realm, you shouldn't care about resources. Putting down the bowl, the King of Hell looked at Lu Chen. As expected, the only one who understands me is you. I only have one reason for attacking the young world. The King of Hell finished speaking and stared at Lu Chen with a burning gaze. Because I want to see what's above the Jiotian. Suddenly, Lu Chen was stunned. Chapter 1070. In the myriad of worlds, Lu Chen was definitely not the only one who wanted to rewrite his own fate. Master Spiritual Martial Apothecary, King of Wild Monsters, King of Hell, Demon Lord. Perhaps only such a stubborn person would be able to stand at the pinnacle and do such an earth-shattering thing. Lu Chen subconsciously drank a bowl of wine. 1,000 years ago, I was defeated by a devil race expert. At that time, I was already a 9-star human king. I originally thought that I had failed, but when I came to the netherworld, I understood that this was my true stage. King Yama spoke of his past calmly, as if there were no ripples. Lu Chen looked at the King of Hell's demon horn. Your demon horn helped you retain your memories from when you were alive? The King of Hell smiled. That's right. As a member of the god-descendant race, I didn't have any strong points. My attributes were more than twice as low as those of my race. The god descendant race is different from other races. They greatly cherish the bloodline of the gods. In my tribe, they said that my mother had committed adultery with a foreign race and burned my mother to death. My father fought with his life to protect her, but he was also seriously injured. They even wanted to cut off this. The king of hell pointed at the huge demon horn on top of his head, as if he was talking about something ridiculous. At that time, even I suspected that I wasn't a member of the god descendant race. I also began to doubt the meaning of my existence. The stain of the god descendant race? The disgrace of your parents? Do such people deserve to live? The king of hell drank another bowl of wine and said with a smile, "However, even if I have to die, at least I have to avenge my parents' death." That night, I ran away. I had 700 years and advanced to the 9-star human king realm. Then I killed the entire god descendant tribe. I still remember that day. They knelt in front of me and begged for mercy. They said that they were wrong, that they had eyes but failed to see. They said that members of the same race shouldn't kill each other. Ha 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 ha, how ridiculous. Since members of the same race shouldn't kill each other, why did they burn my mother to death? Even my father begged me to stop. At this moment, Yama's expression was no longer as indifferent as before. When he spoke of his father, his emotions fluctuated greatly. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and his gaze seemed to pierce through the loss of control, and return to that night. Ridiculous. Stop. If you weren't useless, how could my mother have died? As if he realized that his emotions were fluctuating, the king of hell closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and calmed the resentment in his heart. And once again he looked to Lu Chen. That's why I killed of him. The entire tribe, from the top to the bottom, from the elderly to the children, I didn't let anyone go. The god descendant in the immortal army suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the flame devil sitting there in horror. Of god descendant of hell. I remember now, he's that person. Who is it? His companion asked. The of demon of demon? Of demon of. Yes, that's a legend from several thousand years ago. The Mad King was originally the son of a very powerful god descendant race tribe. Later, it was said that his mother had an affair with another race and gave birth to him. His clansmen burned his mother and heavily injured his father. Then he escaped. A few hundred years later he returned to the tribe as a 9-star human king, and slaughtered 114,000 clansmen. He dug out their hearts and lungs and left them without a complete corpse. Heavens, I thought it was just a legend. I didn't expect it to be true. Hearing that person talk about the secret of the god descendant race, everyone's faces turned ashen. How powerful was a powerful tribe of the god descendant race? That was a top race. How could they be called powerful by normal people? But this person had slaughtered 130,000 people in one night. His strength was simply unimaginable. Lu Chen frowned. You said you only discovered the use of the devil horn after your death. You cultivated to the level of a 9-star king, even though your conditions were far inferior to the average god descendant race? That's right, but that's not all. The king of hell said. The Jiutian has endless opportunities. Even if I didn't have the demon sovereign's bloodline at the time, if even you humans with no strong points can cultivate, why can't I? It seemed that the king of hell had obtained other opportunities. But from the king of hell's description, it was clear that the king of hell's strength was not just an empty reputation. Leaving his clansmen and having a backer, he didn't have the advantages of the god descendant race. Instead, because of his status as a god descendant, he would be targeted. But even in this situation, he had still cultivated to the level of a 9-star human king. Someone who walked up step by step like this was the most terrifying. But Lu Chen still thought of another person. Who was the person who had killed the king of hell in the Yang world? This fellow was someone who could slaughter a god descendant race tribe when he was alive. The king of hell poured himself another bowl of wine. The wine is pretty good. Have those clansmen ever thought that the trash they called trash would now control their fates twice? Over the years, I have unified tens of thousands of tribes in the underworld, and even sent people to the low-level underworld. Now the 4 underworlds below the 6th layer of heaven, and above the 3rd layer of heaven, are under my control. I have already thrown the souls of those clansmen into the myriad tribulation abyss, and turned them into ashes. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. This guy was really a little scary. He didn't even let people off after they died. When talking about the past, I unconsciously became more talkative. Lu Chen asked, "Why are you telling me this?" The King of Hell smiled. "For that woman, you didn't hesitate to charge into the underworld alone and slaughter 1,000,000 of my army of the dead. From this point of view, we are actually the same kind of people. Maybe it's because I was too lonely for so many years. Although the souls of the underworld retained their strength, their memories were wiped out. I had 10 billion subordinates, but no one could talk to them. Don't you think it's funny?" Lu Chen said. "Is this also one of the reasons you attacked the Yang world?" "No, as I said, I just wanted to see what was above the Jiutian. As for the people who can talk, you should know that there aren't many people like us, and those who are qualified to sit in front of me can be counted on one hand." Lu Chen suddenly laughed. "You're wrong. We are not the same kind of people. Although I can't be considered a good person, I won't vent my anger on the innocent for my misfortune. Therefore, we can only be enemies, and can never be friends." The King of Hell wasn't surprised and continued to drink. "That's right, we are destined to be enemies." Lu Chen looked indifferently at the King of Hell. "I have a few questions for you." The King of Hell was very generous. "What questions? Do you have a flower of the underworld on you?" The King of Hell smiled and took out a 6-petaled spider lily, and placed it on the table. "Is it this? Kill me and it's yours." Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. This guy was really confident. "You said that you control the underworld from the 3rd to the 6th layer. Then if a rogue immortal is released, will he also enter the underworld? Have you ever seen such a person? Rogue immortal? Although rogue immortals failed their tribulation and aren't considered true immortals, they are still beyond the control of the underworld." The King of Hell said. "What? You want to find someone? I advise you to give up on that idea. Once he enters the underworld, he is no longer a person of the Yang world. Unless he has the same ability as me." Lu Chen felt a little disappointed. Perhaps he really wouldn't be able to see Mu Xian again. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.